it. I'm gonna start streaming. Thanks. Okay. I think we're now live. And I'm gonna start streaming. We are live. I'm just gonna post this on Facebook, everyone. We are live. The live stream is up. Come play with me and ask me questions for the Q&A session. Okay, I'm gonna turn that off. Yeah. Let me just post the link. Okay, let's find out which page. This quality will be better, guys, once we actually get going. Right here. Okay, here we go. Just getting a link so that everybody can come play. I think I'm the only person watching right now. I'm just going to talk to myself. Let's get this schedule up as well. Okay, schedule. So first we have, so from now, which is 3 o'clock until 6 o'clock, we have live Q&A session, which is now, and then we have opera trivia, and then at 6 o'clock I'm going to take a break, and then we're going to come back at 8 o'clock, possibly slightly earlier, but around 8 o'clock until about 10 o'clock, but we might go later. And later we're going to do arts and crafts. We might end up doing it earlier too. This is all very flexible, so you really should just stick around. But we're going to try to vaguely adhere to the schedule. My guess is opera trivia is going to be shorter than discussion with friends, for example. And the live Q&A session is going to be longer than trivia, for example. And making cookies will probably take a long time. If you have any requests, or if you have any suggestions about what to do, then just type it in the box, or leave a comment or something, and maybe we'll do it. No promises. And of course, if you have any questions, then that's also why we're here. This is the Q&A session. So, this is the time for questions, this is the time to ask. Let's see. Who do we have? Anybody here? Okay. Let's see. So here we are here. Hilariously, I think this is probably the first time that I've actually done a live streaming event. Which means that, weirdly, I don't know how this works. So all I know is that there's a little bit of a lag, which I have to adjust to, personally. Except that the timings are coming in real time here. So, I also have to be checking Facebook. I really should have a couple of monitors, but if I was at home I would have a couple of monitors. But that's okay, because I am in my friend's lovely house, which is basically like a second home to me. I'm very, very happy to be here. It's always nice to be around friends. Because, well, first of all, friends are great, but also friends make us feel at home, and a lot of us don't necessarily well, I have family as well, so that's not a problem for me, but I have family like my sister and my mom and my grandma who are super accepting of me being trans and queer, double whammy. But then we also have our chosen families. I don't know if you've heard this term before, and picked up a lot in queer and trans communities because a lot of us don't have families, a lot of our families disown us, or are not supportive of our lifestyle, or whatever you want to call it. And so we choose our families. But all of us have the opportunity to choose our families, not just queer and trans people. But it's especially important for us. So we can't necessarily always assume that everybody has families to go home to for Christmas that are blood related to them. But most of us do have chosen families. Anybody have questions yet? Looks like we have... I'm just going to keep talking if y'all don't have questions. But, so, just in case nobody had any questions yet, I prepared some questions for myself. I didn't just think of the questions, but I also asked people on Instagram, people on Facebook. I still don't quite understand Twitter. If someone can tell me, I'd be very grateful if someone could explain how Twitter works exactly. Or I think I know how it works, like logistically, but I don't quite get it. So anyway, so let me just open that up. Where is it? Here we go. So question bank. Let me also just put this off to the side, just so I can see the chat a little bit better. Can I pull this chat out? Yes, I can. Pop out chat. Okay. So I can pop out the chat. I can put this here. And then everybody's happy. Great. Okay, so. On to questions. Make this big, because I'm a grandpa. So a couple of things that I put on the Patreon page earlier, actually, which are quite easy questions. I'm not going to answer all of them, because it's kind of a Patreon exclusive, but just to sort of cover the bases, my name is Holden Madogamy. I'm a trans person, trans with an asterisk. Trans with an asterisk is sort of an umbrella term for all trans or non-binary or non-cisgender identities. What does cisgender mean? Cisgender means not trans. It means that you identify with the gender that you were assigned at birth, which is how we also say it, assigned at birth. I don't identify with the gender I was assigned at birth, which is female, although I did for a while. And that's one question that sometimes, well, it's actually not a question I get, but rather it's an assumption that I get a lot of the time, which is, did you always know that you were male? Or when did you know that you were male? And actually, I don't identify as male necessarily. I use male pronouns. I use he and him and his, but I identify as non-binary. So I didn't always know that I was male. That's sort of a narrative that, it's not a myth. A lot of trans people do feel that way, but not all trans people feel that way. There's a lot of us that feel a little more gender fluid about it. Oh, hello, Laura. Ah, hello. I'm going to pause that. I'm going to say hello to Laura. I guess I could just say it because I don't have to type it, but hello. Thank you. Yeah, so, yeah, not everybody has this narrative of knowing they were always in the wrong body and feeling like they were always out of place. I didn't actually always feel that way. I mean, I do have some early memories of thinking like I was kind of different. But who's to say what that is? Because I'm also queer. I'm queer and trans. And I was comfortable with my gender up until I wasn't. So I was comfortable being female. I wasn't a typical, like, super feminine female. I didn't necessarily follow all the rules of femininity. But I was comfortable until I wasn't. And then I started having some dysphoria. Kind of knew that I was that something was up with my gender. I definitely felt like something was wrong, but I didn't know what it was. Someone told me what genderqueer was, and then I identified as genderqueer for a while when I was in college. And that was my first experience of trans with an asterisk identity, was being genderqueer. Sorry, just adjusting my microphone. Hello, microphone. So when I was identifying as genderqueer, I was still using female pronouns, and I was still sort of comfortable with that, actually. But when I came to Berlin, I started exploring my gender more. And at that point, I kind of knew I was trans, but I didn't really do anything about it necessarily. But Berlin is definitely a place to explore gender and to explore your identity, regardless of how you identify. But to sort of play with gender, because everybody can play with gender. That's something that not everybody tells you. Cisgender people can play with gender too. Everybody can play with gender, and that's what makes gender really fun. But anyway, so let me find a question, or if somebody in the peanut gallery, as we say, somebody in the peanut gallery has a question, then please ask. Otherwise, I will just go off. So let's see. One thing. Let's see. Here's a good, pretty basic question, actually. Well, basic but complex at the same time. How do you define your gender? And by you, I mean me. How do I define my gender? I personally define my gender as, like I said, trans with an asterisk, and sort of as genderqueer. I identify with the term transgender. I also identify with the term transmasculine. Those are the terms that I use to define it. And something I often think about as well are other ways to define gender that are not necessarily these terms that we always use. For example, I was talking to someone recently, and I was like, "Oh, what's a fun way to define my gender?" And the immediate image that popped into my head was of like a dapper old monkey somehow. Like, because I've always thought that, like, my gender is somehow particularly old man, for sure. Although I don't identify as man or male, but old man somehow is, like, a specific gender, if you know what I mean. It's like and specifically, like, older gentleman that just doesn't really care anymore. Kind of just does what he wants. And actually, if I was being even less specific, it could just be an old dapper person, old dapper monkey. It doesn't even have to be a man, because I can think of lots of old dapper women that I would also kind of identify with when I see them. And monkey somehow is sort of gender neutral to me. Monkeys obviously also have biological sexes, but monkeys are so playful and don't necessarily have super gendered traits that are super obvious, to me at least. And it's kind of also why I feel like playing character tenor roles is also quite freeing gender-wise, because with character tenor roles you kind of just like play around, and you're not necessarily limited by gender, because these roles are often weird characters or sort of asexual characters a lot of the time. They're sort of just they're the comic relief characters most of the time, so they're sort of asexual because they're not romantic leads. So it gives you a lot more room to play with sexuality and gender. And on the flip side of sometimes characters being asexual, or sometimes they're bi or pan or just generally queer, whatever term you want to use, which I think is great, and means I can identify with my characters more often. So that's another question. That was what question was that answering? Holden. How do you define your gender? That's the question that was answering. Let's see. Anything from the peanut gallery? Anything? Let's see. Nope, nothing yet. Looks like we have a couple of viewers though. So hello. If you are just joining in, then welcome. I'm just chatting because nobody has any questions, which is totally fine. You do not have to have questions because I will just chat at you, and I don't think I'll run out of things to talk about because that's how gender and sexuality works. So what I'm doing is Q&A. Next thing I will do. Let's see. I have some questions here. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Actually, this is an interesting one as well. How has the definition of my gender changed over time? I talked about this a little bit already, about identifying as genderqueer and sort of, not always feeling like I was in one gender necessarily. But I definitely feel like I identified as female at some point, although I think I was kind of definitely non-binary or agender as a child. I think a lot of children kind of are, but was happy with female at the time, and then as kind of identified as genderqueer, identified as gender. I don't know if I ever explicitly identified as gender fluid, but I would say that there's definitely periods of time where I feel that way. Really identified with the term transmasculine, still do, and then sort of just settled on trans with an asterisk, or transgender. The term FTM, which means female to male, I don't really like. I use it as a hashtag a lot because it allows people to find me, and in some ways is accurate because I was assigned female at birth, and now I use male pronouns, but I don't identify as male, and transitioning isn't necessarily a clear-cut thing. It doesn't have to do with the surgeries that you have. Although I've had top surgery and I've taken testosterone, and I take testosterone, that doesn't necessarily mean anything as far as how someone identifies, because I very well could have taken hormones and still identify as female. That's absolutely a possibility. Or not taken hormones and identify as male. That doesn't change a person's identity necessarily. It changes their comfort with their body. So that's the difference. But anyway, so that's kind of how I've changed over time. I also feel like, and this is something I've been thinking about because I've been reading a book called Female Masculinity, and I never identified as butch necessarily. I never thought like I am butch, because there was always a aspect of, there was always a feminine aspect to me, or feminine qualities about me that meant that I never fully felt butch. I didn't feel masculine enough to be a butch woman, which is fine. But there, when I was coming out, there was sort of that expectation that if you look a certain way, then you should act a certain way. So if I looked masculine, if I presented masculinely, then people expected me to act in a butch way, which is not me. I'm not butch, really. There's some things about me that are a little more butch, but not exactly. But if I was reading articles about butchness, like an autostraddle or something like that, then I identified with it in a way. But now that I'm in sort of a more masculine body because of hormones and top surgery, I feel that I can express my femininity in a weird way. Sort of a femininity in a masculine frame is how I sort of think about it, which is different from expressing masculinity from a feminine frame. It's very different. Yeah. So that's sort of the short of how my gender has changed over time. Let's just take a quick look. A couple more people watching. That's great. Cool. So, let me keep talking. And always feel free to ask questions, type stuff in the chat, say hi, whatever you feel like doing. This is open for everybody. So, love for you to lead the discussion if you want to, but I'm happy to just talk and talk and talk and talk. So, let's see, here's another question. Let's see. Oh, interesting. Lots of interesting questions that I have here that I saved from Instagram. Oh, actually, if you'll excuse me 1 minute, I know this is so rude because you're all waiting right there, but I would like to just post something on Instagram to remind people I'm here. So, let me just take a second. I'm going to take a picture of us, if you don't mind. Photo. Hello. It's like Inception. I love it. Live chatting. Live streaming. Live streaming now. Live streaming now. Link in bio. Trans. Queer. These are all the hashtags. I have to write these hashtags every time. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, and I think I will figure out how to do it after doing this more. But right now, I'm sort of just like trans, queer, transgender, non-binary, activism. What else am I? Activist. And then it ends up just being like, oh no, why didn't I put non-binary earlier? I feel very non-binary. But that's how the internet is. Feminism, feminist. There we go. Link in bio. So let me just double check that the link is in the bio, otherwise it'll be very embarrassing. Okay. Ooh, looks like I will have to find this. So, anyway. Oh, this is a very good question, actually. This is something that I've been asked a lot. How do you refer to yourself, or your old self, in quotes, so before transition or before coming out, really, before coming out? It's a very interesting question because I don't think there's one answer for every trans person. There never is. But oh, Erica, hello. I will answer your question in just a second. I'm going to finish this one. Yeah, this one question that I get a lot is that how do you refer to your old self? Not every trans person has the same thing. But I refer to my old self with male pronouns. So, for example, little Holden is like he, him, his. And I refer to my old self with my new name because my old name is very dysphoric. And so I don't like it if someone says my dead name, and I actually don't mind the old pronouns, but the main thing is like the old name really makes me feel dysphoric. But what is more accurate is to say Holden when he was a little girl, for example. Like, that's very accurate, and I have no problems with. But other trans people feel different ways. So give me 1 second. I'm just gonna find the link for this, and I'm gonna copy and paste it to myself so that I can share it on Instagram. 1 second. be so hard. Oh, now my computer is going to be very slow. Okay. Come on. Uh-oh. Is that too much for you, little computer? Okay, great. So that is sent to me. Okay, so Erica has a question. And hello, Erica. So here's a question. What is your low range now, and is it still changing? That's a great question. I would say that my voice definitely is changing. It's not changing as much as it was. There was a period of time where it was changing constantly. It was changing really every... Well, at first it was changing week to week and month to month. Now it's changing more slowly and less perceptively. But as a professional singer, it's more obvious to me when something in my voice changes. For example, when it's easier to access the top. That's when I really notice that something's changing in my voice. But as far as my low range, not much has changed. There's definitely a lot of sort of like ping and resonance in the lower range, but it's not really any different from a cisgender tenor necessarily. It's not getting lower, and I'm not going into baritone range. Thank God, that would have to change all of my branding. But I'm not going into baritone range, which is which I think could be possible, and I think is not. Is also not something that doesn't happen to people, because I know one person who's been on testosterone, I think longer than I have, probably like 5 or 6 years or something like that, and they were I think they were also mezzo-soprano before they started testosterone, and they were a tenor, possibly a countertenor, I can't remember, and then their range kept going down, and they started to sing baritone repertoire. It was actually very difficult for them, both emotionally and for just like their gigging, for the gigging work that they did. But personally, my voice hasn't. Well, the range hasn't changed that much. The quality and the ease of singing has changed a lot, though, which I'm very, very. I'm thankful for, but I also worked very hard. So I'm not going to chalk it all up to chance or just to the testosterone, because that's just not how it works. I worked very hard. I hope that answers your question. And if you have any more questions, happy to answer them. Oh, are you enjoying the world of tenor repertoire? Also, super interesting question. Yes, more and more. At first I was quite apprehensive, because I'd never really listened to tenors before, to be honest. I was just in mezzoland, and also would listen to soprano repertoire, specifically coloratura stuff, because coloratura repertoire is very exciting. But I never really listened to tenor repertoire until I started singing it. But there's a lot of really nice repertoire, especially the character tenor stuff is very interesting for me, emotionally and psychologically and dramatically. But even like the lyric tenor stuff, I'm finding a lot more beauty in and a lot more interest in. And I think all singers are kind of the same way. They are interested in what they can sing or what has to do with what they can sing. So, for example, I never was really into Puccini because there aren't any mezzos in Puccini except for Suzuki in Madama Butterfly. And so I don't know anything about Puccini, but there's lots of tenor stuff. And now that I'm a tenor, I'm kind of like, oh, like, that's pretty good. Like, I understand why people like it. Or also, I don't know how, this isn't exactly the same, but also like Lida, that I wouldn't have really looked at as a mezzo-soprano, and I don't mean gendered leader necessarily, but just like leader that I wouldn't have really looked at, because it's usually for high voices. I'm now looking at some, and it's really interesting. It's really beautiful. And it's the repertoire is very different because mezzo-sopranos and tenors do radically different jobs as far as like how people feel about them. So for example, actually, I mean, they're in the same opera, but if you think of Samson and Delilah, for example, like Delilah, when you listen to Delilah, it's I'll speak for myself. When I listen to Delilah, a good Delilah, it's so soothing and sexy and sensual. Like the voice is just so creamy, and the role is really well written for mezzo soprano, for that type of mezzo soprano. And then the tenor's just like just like screaming the whole time. And I feel like a lot of tenor roles are kind of just that. They're just like screaming their heads off. But that's what people want them to do. You know, nobody wants to hear like a tenor just like chilling out and crooning. No, nobody wants that. Which is unfortunate for me because I love doing that because I'm used to mezzo soprano stuff. But that's how it goes. But I am enjoying sort of the difference in characters in tenor repertoire. Yeah. Any more questions? I'm gonna quickly post the link on Instagram. Look at you all. Inception. Yeah. You're welcome. Where's my coffee? Here we go. Let me just check who else we've got in here. Got a couple people here. Yeah, got a couple people here. Yeah, any more questions? Otherwise, I'll keep talking about something else too. I know there's a little bit of a lag as well, so I might have to wait. Let me open up my question bank. Okay, oops, this is the wrong thing. Oh, this is very interesting. One thing, actually, related to repertoire, so you might find this interesting, Erica, and anybody else who's listening. One person asked me if I miss any roles that I used to sing as a mezzo-soprano, or do I miss any roles that I thought that I might eventually sing as a mezzo-soprano, which is related to the repertoire question. And the answer is definitely yes. I definitely, I'm still quite attached to certain mezzo-soprano roles and arias and also even, like I said, even lieder that I could theoretically still sing, but there's a couple that I definitely couldn't. For example, Der Tod und das Mädchen is a Schubert-Lied, and I sang that as a mezzo-soprano, and it's awesome because it requires a huge low extension. Like, I forget exactly what the note is, but I can't sing it as a tenor. It's not, well, first of all, it's not appropriate. Nobody wants to hear a tenor do a low note. And so it's only for low male voices or low female voices. Yeah, so nobody would do it as a tenor. And I miss it because it was a fun song. And a lot of arias as well. A lot of female arias, female character arias. For example, that is an amazing aria. I loved singing it so much. And I would have loved to sing Dorabella. I would still love to sing Dorabella. If anybody in the world out there, if you want to pay me to sing Dorabella, I will sing it so well. So I miss that. And I miss the one thing, and I think about this pretty often, I miss Rossini because I'm not a Rossini tenor. I don't know if I will be a Rossini tenor. I mean, they're a whole other breed of tenors, which I do not think I am. If someone wanted to pay me to sing it, I would. But I don't. It's not what I do naturally anymore, which is a shame, because as a mezzo-soprano, I did Rossini very naturally, and it was very, very fun. My voice was very fast, and that style just kind of gelled with my body. And also I have all this knowledge of bel canto repertoire and how to sing Rossini specifically. And I only realized this recently. Well, by recently I mean in the past 6 months. I was talking to some friends. I wasn't coaching them necessarily, but they were asking me for advice about bel canto repertoire, about some repertoire, their specific repertoire they were doing. And they're sort of oh, I'm not really sure how to do this part, or oh, could you just listen to me and give me some feedback? And I realized I know so much more, or I remember so much more than I thought I would. It made me a little bit sad. So I do definitely miss aspects of mezzo-soprano repertoire. Yeah, a lot of stuff. And also Handel repertoire for mezzo-sopranos is amazing. And I know a lot of mezzo-soprano repertoire is also sung by tenors sometimes, but it's so exciting to see a mezzo in a pants roll. It's so much better, I think. So I miss that pants roll aspect of things, because even though I feel like life is a giant pants roll, or life is a big drag show, then it doesn't have that same effect for the audience as it does when mezzo-sopranos are doing pants rolls. Yeah, so that answers that question. Let me just check, see who's here. What do we have now? Let me just take 1 second. I'm just going to check Facebook just to make sure that this link is getting out. Let me come back. Just a second. I should actually, let me put on some some music for you. Would you like that? I would like that. So and this is my party, so I'm going to put on music. Let's see. Oh, this is nice. Cinematic Orchestra. Does anybody know Cinematic Orchestra? Because I didn't get the whole album on it. That's okay. Okay, let's put Botanicki on. So this is the soundtrack to a video game, which I like very much, actually. So let's put that in the background. Let me just check who is looking at this. Is anybody here? Okay, live stream is up. Ah! Gigi's watching. Gigi, are you still watching? Gigi, you haven't said anything. If you're still watching. Okay. Anyway. So. Some more questions. Y'all can hit me up. I will answer whatever question I'm currently going to do, and then I will answer your question. So. Let's take a look. I have a couple of fun questions that I have some people on Instagram asked. So, my favorite Zelda game, this is a very important question to me. My favorite Zelda game is absolutely The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. It's a very, very difficult choice between Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. Because Ocarina of Time is just the classic, and I mean, I could absolutely play it over and over and over and over again, and it was a fundamental part of my development as a kid playing that game. But Majora's Mask also, it has sort of endured the test of time for me, because as a kid I knew that it felt so emotional, and the context of the game is basically that you are trying to find a lost friend. You go into an unknown world where, well, unknown world for you, but everybody looks like the people that you already know, which is a little weird. It's very surreal. The moon's crashing in 3 days, and you have such a variety of people dealing with their impending doom. So you see so many people dealing with this knowledge of their own death very differently, which I find, even as a kid, I found very significant, even though I didn't know how to articulate it necessarily. I was like, wow, this is really deep somehow. And as an adult, all of these people are grieving in different ways. Some people are so angry and destroying stuff, and then some people are in complete denial of the impending doom and not doing anything about it. Just staying there and saying we need to just stay here, nothing's going to happen if we stay here. And then some people are completely depressed and can't do anything at all. Some people I mean, some people have sort of accepted it, or they accept it over a period of time. You see a lot of character development in it. So I'd say Majora's Mask is definitely my favorite Zelda game. I could play it... Well, I don't play it over and over again too much, because it's quite an emotional experience for me to play it. It's kind of like reading my favorite novel. But it's a little different. I would love to hear what your favorite Zelda game is, people in the chat room, if you feel like sharing. And I would love to talk more about Zelda. But anyway, so that's my favorite Zelda game. Like I said, Ocarina of Time is a very, very, very close second. Probably followed by Wind Waker, which is also very good, which I'm replaying right now, which is amazing music. And I literally cried when I started it up, and I was just like watching the intro video to it, literally crying. It's insane. Anyway, so let me give another question. So, favorite Zelda game. Let's see. Let's find another one. How to define my gender. I did that one. Video game I'm playing right now. Oh, hello, Erica. Oh my god, all of the motifs from Wind Waker are incredible. They're so memorable. It's insane, actually, to me how memorable they are. I don't know about for you, but it's just like, because I'll be playing it and it's just all there. Like, I will be humming along, I'll be whistling along or whatever. Or even when, once I'm, learning more of the songs for, to conduct with the Wind Waker, I'm like, oh my god, I remember all of these. It's, also in my muscle memory, too. Or, when I'm playing Ocarina of Time and playing the Ocarina, all of those things are in muscle memory and in my, oral memory as well. It's crazy. I think the great thing about Wind Waker as well is that, how to describe this? It's so... Yeah, well, originally Koji Kondo did the music for Zelda, but then he sort of handed that off to different people, and I think he was the musical producer for a lot of things. I don't know if he does it anymore. I don't know who did the music for Breath of the Wild, for example. You're right, though. Andrew would know. I don't think Koji Kondo did the music for Wind Waker, though. I think someone else did. And I was playing Link's Awakening recently, and I don't think Koji Kondo did the music for Link's Awakening, but I think he did. He supported the composition for it, and supported the production of it. But they're so good. They're always so good. Link and even Link's Awakening. When I was playing that, I was just like crying sometimes at some of the music. It's so beautiful. Even in its little pixelated glory. Not everybody really understands it, but that I get emotional over. This little 8-bit, 16-bit, 24-bit sounds, but I do. One game that I still haven't played, actually, I started playing Skyward Sword with Andrew, but then we didn't finish. We played it for like a while. We had like a marathon day, and then we didn't finish it. And I don't have it here. I don't have the game, but I also don't have the extended controller that you need for Skyward Sword. And I haven't bought a new system for a long time. I don't have a Nintendo Switch. If anybody out there feels like buying me a Nintendo Switch, you are so welcome to. Anyway, and let's see, where's my Q&A? Let's see. Oh, I remember. I was gonna the question that I was gonna answer was, what am I playing nowadays? Well, I've been replaying Wind Waker recently, but I've gotten really into like, I guess what you call indie games. I don't know, but I guess you would just call them indie games. Specifically, like point and click games with really good music, like Botanicula or Samorost are two amazing games, or Machinarium. Those are all by the same team. They have really good music. They're just point and click games, so they're very relaxing, and just really well drawn, really well produced. Yeah, and I was playing this game called Broken Sword 5. I think I got it in like a Humble Bundle, and then I realized it was just a really good game. It's another point and click adventure, which I think I started playing because I was doing some research on like choose your own adventure, or like text games and like visual novel games, and it's very similar. Point and click adventures are very, very similar to visual novel games, because you're basically just taking decisions on what you're doing and collecting data. But of course, in visual novels you have less to do, but your decisions are weighed a lot more. I would really like to learn how to make a visual novel. I started learning a little bit of Inform, which is a programming language for making text adventures, but I got stuck while I was learning it. And there's actually pretty good resources for learning, but I don't know, I did something wrong, and there's nobody really to help you troubleshoot it. So, anyway. Shame. So, that's what I've been playing recently. Let's see. Oh, this is quite an interesting question. It's a very short answer, but one person wanted to know if I ever thought about detransitioning, which is a thing. If you don't know what that means, basically, it's when you stop taking testosterone. It means different things for different people, probably. I don't know so much about it, but definitely you stop taking testosterone, and you, if you were taking testosterone, and then you identify as the gender that you did before you transitioned. So gender is not a binary, and it's not linear in any way either. So it's hard to explain it in terms that are correct for me. But if you think about gender in just male and female, and you think about that transition, then it's basically going, for example, from female to male, and then deciding that you want to identify as female again, and stopping testosterone, or maybe having surgeries to correct surgeries that you had before. when you wanted to transition to be male, or to be masculine. That's what these were for. And no, I've never thought of it though. I've never thought of doing it. I'm very happy with my body now. Well, as happy as far as gender is concerned with my body. I think everybody, regardless of gender, has problems with their body. But yeah, so that's it for me for that question. So we're about 10 minutes away from the hour mark. At which point I might do a little bit of opera trivia. I have a friend here, which I will go get her in a couple of minutes. I'll probably come back to doing some Q&A later, but yeah. But ask me questions if you want to, because we're going to do opera trivia soon. Let me just check this. Okay. Cool. Right. Just checking something there. So this is actually an interesting question. How do you handle someone who refuses to use your chosen name and or pronouns? So I can't answer this from experience because I haven't had anybody willfully do that or maliciously do that, thankfully. There have been times where I've had family members who were having trouble getting my pronouns and my name, which is very normal. Family members have known you by a different name, have seen you born with a different name. So the only trouble I've had is with family members who just couldn't remember. So I actually made a list, which I put on my website, which basically has tips for teaching people how to practice pronouns, because it's really just about practice. One of the most useful things that I've found, and one of the most useful tips that I've given to people is to like write a story, or to like practice telling a story about the person that you're worried about messing up pronouns up for. Just practice talking about them with someone else. So for example, let's say you're not used to the gender neutral pronoun they, them. And you're used to a different pronoun. So you are chatting with someone. It doesn't have to be anybody important. It doesn't need to be anybody that even knows this person. You can just be like, oh, I have a really funny story. I was going to the supermarket with my friend X, and they picked up a can of chickpeas, and they thought that they were tiger beans, and I said, oh, have you, or they said, oh, aren't these garbanzo beans? And they didn't know that garbanzo beans and chickpeas were basically the same thing. Now I'm wondering if actually they are the same thing, but I think they are. But anyway, so I used the gender neutral pronoun they, them, and it was a low pressure environment, because I think the main thing that scares people is that when they're practicing a pronoun, they don't want to get it wrong, and so then their brain actually panics and makes them get it wrong. It's a weird thing about our brain. It's sort of like when you're trying to go to sleep, and you're like, go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. And you're never going to go to sleep if you're screaming at yourself in your brain to go to sleep. Same thing with if you're like, get the pronoun right, get the pronoun right, get the pronoun right. Then your brain is like, oh, get it wrong? It does completely opposite thing. So the main thing is try to take the pressure off yourself. And by that I mean put yourself in a low pressure environment where you're talking to someone else to practice. Writing it down also helps, and reading that out loud, because a lot of it is also muscle memory, and connecting your muscle memory with your brain. And so writing down a story about this friend with gender neutral pronouns, and then reading it out loud, and then writing a different story, or however many times you need to do it to get it right. And it also requires taking a second to stop and think before you speak. And for some people, that's a lot harder than others. But you just gotta do it. And the main thing you need to remember is that it's not about you; it's about them. They're the ones who are going to feel really bad if you get the pronoun wrong. You'll feel bad, you'll feel guilty, but your guilt does not equal the amount of dysphoria that they feel. And aside from dysphoria, the hurt that they feel from a friend getting the pronoun wrong. And you're not a bad person if you get it wrong, because everybody does also get it wrong. You can't expect to get it perfect every single time, but you really do need to try. And you need to put some time to practice. That's the thing. It's not going to come magically. And if just because it's hard doesn't mean it's not worth doing. On the flip side of things, I often see a lot of trans people who aren't very patient about the people close to them getting the pronouns, and not teaching them a way to do it either. Because I've been very frustrated with some people who I've given them the tools to do it, and they still keep getting it wrong. And then I basically say, like, look, come to me when you get it right. But I've put some time in and been patient with them. And you don't need to be patient with everybody, obviously, because life is hard enough as a trans person. But it does pay off to be a little bit more patient with people, because then they don't feel so pressured either, and they'll actually probably get it right more often if they don't feel so scared. But anyway, that's just how I feel. You're allowed to feel different ways. So, I'm gonna come back in about a minute, and I'm gonna do some opera trivia with a friend. So, stay tuned, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. Let me just turn this off. Move broadcast alert. Okay, so we're back. And airplanes are flying, which is great. So, now we're at the opera trivia portion of the live stream. So, what I have, and I will soon have a couple of friends with me to do this, but I have some opera trivia, you could call it, but basically descriptions of operas or opera synopsises, or descriptions of characters and arias, and then you guess the opera. So there's different versions of these, so we'll go through them, don't worry. And I would love for you to chime in if you're able. So, what I'm going to do, I have this. My friends are going to come in just a second. So, I'm just going to post something to Facebook to let everybody know that we're doing opera trivia now. If you have any opera trivia yourself, or if you have any opera riddles or something like that, they don't even have to be opera related, then please write them in the chat box, and please join in. Otherwise, we're going to have a great time, and that's fine. So, let me just check this, 1 second. Okay, we are live, and here's the watch page again. There we go. Okay, now it's time for opera trivia. Oops. I love when it does that. Now it's time for opera trivia. And that's going to post in a second. Is it? Yes, good. post this. You posting? Don't post. Anyway, so before we start, let's take a look at who we have here. Who do we have in this room? We have a couple people watching. Great. So join if you want. Also, worth noting that at any point, even if you've missed this live, you can come back and watch this later. You can watch me doing trivia and doing Q&A and just chatting to the camera, which I think is quite fun. I've watched live streams that I've missed of other vloggers. And if you haven't already, if you're watching and you haven't subscribed to my channel, I would love if you would hit the subscribe button, and if you would like this live stream. Every little bit counts, as they say. So, let's get going. Okay, so, first, we have opera summaries in 4 words. I think I've done that already with a friend, so I'm going to pick a different one. Ooh, operatic madness. Oh, this sounds very good. Operatic madness. So there's this great site. It's called funtrivia.com. This makes me sound like I'm or it makes me feel like I'm in middle school again. But I've actually got an account so that I can save my points, and so that I can write trivia as well. But anyway, so trivia quiz, operatic madness, category opera. Opera has its own category. How exciting is that? Beethoven also has its own category on the site. And I think Mozart does too. So, 10 questions rated difficult. So, I think I hear my friends in the other room, so I'm going to go grab them. Hold on. Did I hear someone come in? Emma, would you like to come do trivia? Oh, she's in the shower. Never mind. Never mind. My friend's in the shower. That's fine. So. Okay. So, hi. Hello.
Can I do trivia?
Yes. So, this is my friend Lisa. Lisa's going to come do trivia with me. Hello. So. Okay, so. Just so you know what's happening. So, we have Facebook here. And then here is the chat room. And so we can keep an eye on the chat room, but basically we're going to do trivia.
Cool.
Okay, so this one, I don't think we've done this, operatic madness.
Oh, God.
So, some have called opera itself a demented art form. Who's ever said that? No, they just made that up.
Yeah.
Certainly the subject of madness. Someone called Wagner demented once, I think. Certainly the subject of madness is a recurrent theme in many operas. Wait, let me just do this. And then this is easy. Okay. Good, then we're not distracted by that. Certainly the subject of madness is a recurrent theme in many operas, particularly the ones featured here. Good luck. So this is really difficult. Take quiz, single page. Okay.
This is rated difficult.
This is rated difficult. Oh. Uh-oh. Weird, my internet stopped.
Sometimes it does that on the iPhone. It just
really?
kind of... The iPhone...
Good timing.
...gives up.
Oh, it's back already. Okay.
Yeah.
It just gives up. It's like, no.
It's just that I'm really tired of connecting to this particular internet level, so...
I'm really tired. You do it yourself.
Take a little nap.
Okay, it isn't only coloratura sopranos who have mad scenes. The great Marilyn Horne went wonderfully mad playing this title character in an opera by Vivaldi, who was also the subject of an opera by Handel. Oh my god, this is really hard. I mean, it says that it's difficult.
Agrippina? Didn't Vivaldi write an opera by Agrippina or something? Are there options?
There's options. There's definitely options.
Okay.
So, we have to name the title character, who's also the subject of an opera by Handel. So that helps.
Should be the name of the...
Yes, it's the name of the opera, but it also helps. I think it's a tip.
Okay.
It's also by Handel, it is also the title character.
That helps so much because Handel wrote like
9,000. So
numbers.
Siroe, Siroe, Siroe,
Okay.
Ronaldo, Orlando, Radamisto. Ronaldo? I don't know Orlando.
No, because Ronaldo is not the Ronaldo. No, Armida is the one who goes crazy, no, it's not that one. What are the other two?
Orlando and Radamisto. And
I don't know.
I don't know Orlando at all. Wait, Wonderfully Mad playing this title character. It isn't only color tourism. So Marilyn Horn. Radamisto. I don't know. I'm going to say Radamisto. I don't think it's Ronaldo. I don't know what Orlando's about, but I don't think that.
Okay.
Does anybody else know? What's the peanut gallery saying? They don't know. Okay. Radamisto. Okay. Oh my god, this is really hard.
You should have done an easy one and like impressed people.
We should have. Instead we look like it. No, this is so hard. I'm going to do it anyway. We've committed. We should wait for Emma, but with three of us it'd be easier. Wait, let me open up another one. Let's see. Oh my gosh, why is this so hard?
Do one that doesn't have handle options.
What? No, just because you don't know handle operas.
There's like 900 of them.
Well, we're not doing like just a handle quiz. That would be insane. I mean, it'd be fun, but in like a really like masochistic way. Okay, so opera trivia. Okay, let's go back to opera trivia and pick a better one. By better, I mean easier. Okay, so what happens? Okay, so this one's tough. Is tough worse than difficult? No, I don't think so.
I don't know.
Okay, it does not always stay that way. 10 instances of operatic oddities. Can you match the situation? Okay, we haven't done this one. Let's try this one.
Okay.
Come on. Come on.
It's going well.
Neuem Tab. Okay, what happens at the opera does not always stay at the opera. So, start. It's a match quiz.
Okay.
Okay, so. Oh my god, why is this so complicated? No. This is way too hard. Well, it's not hard, it's just like the format is complicated. Okay, what about sleepless at the opera? Some of the greatest moments in opera occur when some person or persons are unable to sleep. That sounds really specific. Operatic aliases and disguises. Ooh,
that could be good.
Opera plots frequently revolve around intrigue and deception, so it's not surprising that characters sometimes assume false names or appearances. Can you solve these questions of operatic identity? Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
So we're doing a quiz.
Are we video or are we?
We're on video. I've covered it up so that we can focus because I'm more used to being on video than you guys.
I've got no makeup on and I just jumped out the shower, so
it does not matter.
Telling the world that.
Really.
Who wants an ice lolly?
I want an ice lolly so bad.
Okay, so who
never
wants?
Used the word
We've got strawberry. We've got just strawberry.
That's blueberry.
No. And Heidelbeer with Earl Grey. So
I want that one. Is that okay?
So
these are
you're not allergic
posh.
To no, I know. I went to the posh beer one.
Whoa.
Okay.
These are posh.
Oh my god. This is what we need.
Okay, so I don't know who is here in the room with us.
Have we got any people with us?
I have no idea. Actually, let me look.
How does this even work?
Okay, so this
Hi,
is...
I'm Emma. I'm the Luddite. If there's anyone there, I've got no idea what's happening. The world can see me without makeup. That's all I know right now.
That's fine. You look great.
You said that because you like me.
I do like you. Okay, so...
I'm going to say something really inappropriate.
View on watch page. We can save the inappropriate things for later. Because we have something...
Something smells like it's burning.
Something does smell like it's burning.
Are you cooking anything?
No.
Something outside is... I know it's also interesting for... I'm going to check the kitchen.
Oh my god. What if everything burned down?
On video.
We're on video.
That'd be cool. Can I kiss you?
We're on camera.
Is that not appropriate?
No. I mean, maybe later, but we're doing trivia right now. This is my girlfriend / partner, and so she wants to kiss me.
I want to kiss him.
Yes.
Because he's pretty. And I just showered, so I'm not sorry.
And she just...
I feel like I deserve a kiss for that.
I think maybe it's outside.
What's outside? Yeah,
Let's probably get straight outside.
Because someone might be grilling or something.
Okay.
Sadly.
Okay, so...
I am distracted by the company.
Okay. So we don't have many people viewing, but that doesn't matter because this, as I was telling you, audience, this saves, which means that anybody can view this later as well.
I did not talk to my agent about this.
If that's a problem, then
I'm teasing.
it's not a nice joke because that's the legitimate thing, and you've had.
I've actually called people on that before.
Yes, you've had me call people on that before, so it's not funny.
I'm hilarious.
So it's you, audience. You will not have to worry about it. You will be able to watch this later.
Maybe with me blurred out, depending on the contract.
No, I'm not going to take the time to blur you out. Stop. It's not funny because people have legitimate things about this, and if you say that, then it's not consensual, and I'm going to have to blur you out later. So please don't make me blur you out. It takes a lot of work. Anyway, we were doing operatic aliases and disguises.
Oh, fun.
Okay. So, single page.
There's a good...
In Puccini's La Boheme, a consumptive girl is struggling up the stairs to her Paris garret. Garret?
Garret.
Like a tower.
It's like a room at the top of a building where poor people historically lived because they were unheated. So you said like an unheated artist's garret. That's why they live so high up.
Ah.
Now
Paris garret. Paris garret. On freezing Christmas Eve, a draught blows her candle out, and she knocks at a neighbouring poet's door to ask for a light. Since this is opera, the young couple fall in love at first sight, and the girl introduces herself. Mi chiamano Mimi. My mio nome. They call me Mimi, but my name is... What is the girl's real name?
Lucia.
Really?
Yeah.
Mi chiamano Mimi, my nome Lucia.
Oh, I haven't sung this. Pardon me.
I'm just saying.
It's there
It's
in the
Lucia.
first
Okay,
one.
it's Lucia. All I know is mi chiamano Mimi, blah, 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 blah.
Okay. No,
Yeah, that's the next part I know, exactly.
yeah,
Actually, the second
I know, right? Nice.
In Rossini's The Barber of Seville, the doctor's young ward, Rosina, has just been serenaded by an admirer who identified himself as Lindoro. Rosina, smitten by the voice, sings an aria beginning Una voce poco fa, just a voice at break of day.
No.
That's not the translation.
That's not her name.
It's not the translation. In which she vows that Lindoro mio sarà, Lindoro shall be mine. But who is Lindoro really?
Count Almaviva.
Yeah.
Do I get extra points for naming his other operas?
What?
The other operas that he's also in.
No, there's no extra points for that. I mean, you could. You want to? You don't get points.
It's not a very...
You get points for bringing these.
I get points for bringing... In fairness, I would just be like sitting here licking the sweat off you guys right now.
That would be weird.
It would be weird.
I
It would be on camera. Hey camera. I'm not normally clean or nice.
These are so good. In Verdi's Mantua, do you know this? Oh dear. Okay. I'm not a Verdi singer.
We're all fucked. Is there a dramatic mezzo now?
Probably not if you don't know what it is.
It's not done very
I've never
often.
even heard of it.
Well, anyway.
Anyway, give it a go. I mean, if it's an Italian name, we've got a limited.
In Verdi's Mantua,
Stefano.
the daughter...
Simone.
Shh. In Verdi's Mantua, the daughter of the court jester Rigoletto has an admirer who bribes his way into her garden to meet her.
So this is just Rigoletto.
This is Rigoletto. Okay, anyway. Yeah, that makes more sense then.
Their tryst is interrupted. The admirer flees, and the girl sings an aria about his caro nome, dear name. She thinks he is called...
I have
Gual-
once.
Can you guys listen to me?
We're being insane.
Well, the peanut gallery.
She thinks he is called Gualtier Malde, a penniless student. But who is he, in fact?
It's a dude.
It's
right?
the Duke of Mantua. I think you gave us the answer in the title.
Yeah.
I think that's actually badly written because the opera's Rigoletto,
Yeah.
not Mantua. So I think...
Maybe is the opera like a Rigoletto and then there's like a subtitle? Or something.
No, I think it's the Hunchback of the Court or something. That's the subtitle. I can't believe I went on record saying that. That is probably not the subtitle.
This is one of those times where you say something is truth.
No, I said I think. I did,
Oh, well done!
I said
Well
I
done,
think.
you've changed.
I did, you're training me.
Is it distracting to have the video up for you guys? You're not
No, it's actually quite good because I can check my angles.
Okay.
And also check I'm not like flashing my pussy because I realise these shorts are really... Can I say pussy?
You can say fuck and pussy. It's not censored, but we don't have to like go
Say
over
pussy a lot.
Beethoven's Leonore.
Fidelio.
Okay, you don't know what I'm going to say.
Oh, fair point.
That's
like,
the
well
answer.
done, that's the opera. That's not the question.
It is the answer, though. I just read the question.
Sorry. Not even my fault.
You can't just listen to the question.
Sorry.
Beethoven's Leonore has disguised herself as a man and taken a job in a prison in order to rescue her husband, Florestan, who has been unjustly jailed by the governor Pizarro. She is ultimately successful, but what male name does she use during her spell as a prison officer?
Is it? Let me think.
Fuck you guys.
Fidelio.
Maybe it's Martina.
Could be
Maybe it's Marcelina.
Yeah, I know there's something for you to do in that.
Oops.
Marcelina.
Wow.
Wow.
I just auto-corrected Fidelio to Fidelity, and then I just had like a revelation of like
What the name is
what
about.
the name is about. Wow.
God, she's really earnest. She's so bad.
Anyway, in Puccini's opera, Lieutenant Pinkerton calls his Japanese wife Butterfly.
Oh.
What is her real name?
Chocho-san.
Chocho-san. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, but yes, it is. I mean, it is. I do know, yes, it is. We'll find out at the end of this quiz. In one of Mozart's operas, Dr. Bartolo and Marcellina had an illegitimate son whom they called Raffaello. He was carried off by bandits in his childhood, but years later, he and his parents are surprisingly reunited by what name is Raffaello now known? The name appears in the title of the opera.
Figaro. It's one of my favourite lines.
Of course, it's one of your only lines in the opera. That's why.
And the opening line of the quintet that comes next, actually. That is...
Which is also yours.
Yeah, obviously. But it's legit glorious. That's all I'm saying. Marcellina's a really fun role because she's got no responsibility and a lot of legit glorious stuff to sing.
Mm-hmm.
And like all the crooning around in the middle that she does in that. So anyway.
Get off topic.
I would like to say that... No, it's fine. It's okay if we get off topic. Nobody cares. If somebody cared, they'd be like, "Hey, you guys, stay on topic." You are allowed to say that, audience. But I don't think you will. I think you like it.
I take direction right now.
We do what the audience wants.
What?
Take direction, eat your popsicle.
I
You
finished.
did it.
In Mozart's Così fan tutte,
Oh, I know that.
Ferrando and Guglielmo are so sure of their girlfriend's fidelity that they are happy to bet on it with their cynical old friend Alfonso. They disguise themselves as foreign visitors to Naples, and each of them pays court to the other's fiancé. What is their assumed nationality?
Albanian.
Albanian.
Despina.
In Mozart's Così fan tutte, the maidservant Despina assumes two disguises in the course of the opera. What are they?
Dottore e notario.
Can you say that in English?
Oh, doctor and notary.
Yeah. A nameless wanderer plays a large part in Siegfried, the third opera of Wagner's Ring Cycle. What is the true identity of the wanderer?
Wotan.
Wotan.
That's what I was gonna say, but then my Wagner trivia is not great. I'm just not
Seriously?
Oh,
What?
it's like 12 hours of music. I mix them all up.
Are you shaming her for not knowing every fucking character in Wagner?
Wagner.
You're a dramatic mezzo. Well, you have a much bigger voice than I do, but we're not singing any Wagner. The only one I have is Duna.
She's singing
I
Wagner.
could sing like
Oh,
a
she
Rhine Maiden.
Yeah.
She should sing
But
the
that's
kicking
it.
Rhine Maiden. And some of the...
Yeah, that doesn't mean she's gonna memorize every fucking...
In fairness, I still can't name all the Valkyries. And I
And
don't
then-
know which ones suit me.
Well, then why are you acting like she should know this question?
I just thought it was another one of those things like Figaro's called Raffaello. One of the things that you just know.
It's one of the things you Who just knew?
I feel the internet is getting to see a special dynamic in our relationship with this quiz.
I feel like I should leave you two alone.
No, I really don't. It'll get real aggressive.
Wait, I just want to eat my
Then real
popsicle.
sexy.
Wait, stop it! Well, I'm not hungry.
Okay. In Rossini's La Cenerentola.
Sorry, what now? I didn't hear any of those words.
What?
I didn't hear a single word.
Did you have like an aneurysm?
If I start speaking Swedish, then yeah, please take me to
In Rossini's La Cenerentola.
There we go.
Prince Ramiro, in search of a wife, disguises himself as whom?
Ooh, buttons. In
Dandini, Don Magnifico, Alidoro, or an unnamed beggar?
I think it's the unnamed beggar. I mean, Rossini likes to call his tenors Lindora, but this isn't one of the times.
What is it?
I think it's an unnamed beggar and she's super nice and gives him tea.
Sure. I have no idea.
You're the Rossini mentor.
No, I know.
I was like, no.
I never
I
sang.
got control up on the stage. That's all I got.
I never sang La Cenerentola actually. I haven't sung the whole thing. So I have no idea.
It's not
Can we phone
Rossini
a
or Don
friend?
Magnifico.
Yeah, can we phone a
Can we
friend?
phone
Well, the whole
Annalise?
theoretically we should have people in the chat room.
Don Magnifico is the daddy, and Dandini is the buttons character.
I bet it's an unnamed beggar.
I think it's an unnamed beggar because Lindora comes in L'Italiana, Algeria, and as
No, it's Alidoro, not Lindoro.
that's what I mean.
The option.
Yeah.
Alidoro.
Oh, Alidoro is an option.
Yeah.
I've not
That
seen
actually could be it.
It could be Alidoro, but I don't think so. I think it's an unnamed beggar in this one. I'm gonna bet with that, but this is not one I'm sure of.
I think I've seen this. Like,
Internet, do you know?
Who have we got in the chat room at the moment?
I have no idea. I mean, theoretically, I have no idea who we have done down.
We have literally no who is answering us.
That's fine. We don't need people.
And Louise answers things quite fast though.
Okay, submit answers. Let's find out.
No, next. Oh, is that it?
That's
Is that all?
There's 10. Okay, Lucia is right. Count Almaviva, the Duke of Mantua, Fidelio, Churchill-san, Figaro, Albanian, the Doctor and Notary, Votan, his valet Dandini.
He dresses up
Really?
as Dandini.
He dresses up as his valet. Many of us in the UK, this is obviously written by someone in the UK, get to know the story of Cinderella through Christmas pantomimes.
Which is why I shouted buttons for the internet. Buttons is the name of the character who is Dandini, the valet, in our version of Cinderella. And Buttons is the guy who talks to us and
I
he
just
says,
thought you were having an
"Who's
aneurysm.
the hide?" I love the fact that you guys think I'm having an aneurysm and you're doing nothing. Anyway,
May
that's
therefore
why
be surprised when we come to Rossini's opera to find that there is no fairy godmother and no magic, and that the heroine's half-sisters, though vain and selfish, are not expected to be ugly. The prince and his valet change places at the ball. Cinderella's sisters naturally pay court to the imagined prince and are duly humiliated. Cinderella, disguised as a fine lady, vows her love for the apparent servant and is eventually rewarded. 9 out of 10. 135 points.
I really don't understand the point system.
I don't understand that.
points mean prizes again for the
Brothers!
Oh, let's do the other one now that we have Emma here.
Oh, yeah.
We could also just ask each other random bits of opera.
I feel like that's not going to go well because we all know very specific bits of opera.
And we all know different
I'm not
shit.
good at asking trivia.
No, but it might be quite funny to try and think of things without giving away the answers. Anyway, let's do the other one.
The other one
But isn't
really
it hard?
This one's really, really hard. You might find it really pleasurable.
I'll probably find it pleasurable, but I heard you guys being unsure of a handle opera, and yeah, I mean, if it's all handle shit, then
It's not. It's all about mad
lost.
scenes.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
It sounds fun, isn't it?
I know, I got
This,
excited in the
this
process.
famous matricide from classic Greek myth is featured in Gluck's
Waitress.
Iphigenie en
Tortide.
Tauride. Pursued by Furies following the murder of his mother, he is brought as a captive to the island of Tauris, where his sister, the title character, is a high priestess of Diana. Here he gives way to despair in a memorable mad scene in which at one point he becomes strangely placid and sings Le calme rentre dans mon cœur. Calm returns again to my heart. The agitated orchestral accompaniment, however, betrays his true state of mind. Who is he?
Yeah, these are the kind of operas where I don't even bother to know the names in the first place. I think I've seen this one. This is Gluck, right?
It's Gluck.
Yeah, it's Iphigenie. He wrote Iphigenie en Tauride and Iphigenie He wrote 2 Iphigenies. And I sing his Hippolyta in one of them.
This famous matricide. Oh, wait, it's matricide.
Matricide. So he kills
Is
his
it Oedipus?
What?
Is it Oedipus?
Oh.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's the
It's
most...
not
that's
Theseus.
That's the
Right? Theseus
famous.
doesn't kill his mom.
No, yeah.
Achilles doesn't kill his mom.
Achilles doesn't kill his mom.
Orestes, I have no idea.
Oh, no, hang on. Orestes comes from the Electra story, and Clytemnestra does end up dead, but I don't know if she's killed by her son or not, which I really should know from the Strauss. It's not clear in the Strauss. Orestes goes in, yeah, and then massacres.
Do y'all know?
Yeah, I think it could be. I think it could be Orestes, or it could be Oedipus, because both of them kill their mums.
I think.
No, that's not fair. Well, I think
That's clever. I'm kind of
But
going to go
there's matricides. There should only be one answer that the guy kills his mom. In my opinion, to make it.
I bet it's Orestes. Because I think we would know if this opera was about Oedipus.
Oedipus is,
I was going to say.
it would say something about blind.
And also, no, they're not clearly not being helpful. And also, I think Clytemnestra is the name of the character that I sing in one of these operas as well. So I'm going to go with
Orestes.
Orestes.
Okay. This rather high-strung lady from classic Greek myth, oh my god, is among the principal characters in Mozart's early opera Idomeneo, where she suffers the pangs of unrequited love for the title character's son, Idamante. When the latter throws her over for her rival, the Trojan princess Ilia, she goes spectacularly mad in the famous aria Doreste Dayace, which ends with her running from the stage laughing maniacally. It's enough to give a girl a complex. Who is she?
Electra.
Right.
Electric.
Dame Joan Sutherland was fond of referring to many of her greatest roles as baddie dames.
Which is my baddie dame aria would you like?
You need to do an Australian accent and do some cross-stitch if you're doing a Dame Sutherland accent.
Did she do cross-stitch famously?
I famously did cross-stitch backstage apparently, and would sort of be in the middle of rehearsals. Yes, just very, very placid.
Oh my god, that's sweet.
This is what I've heard. I don't know if this is
How
true.
cute. Arguably the baddiest would be the heroine of this Bellini opera, who has no less than 3 mad scenes during the course of the evening, actually 3.5 since she regains her sanity halfway through another scene. Maybe she's driven mad by the tenor's high notes. He has to reach 2 D flats and 1 high F. What is the opera? I think
I'm going to go for Ippolitani.
Yeah.
But what are the other options? Are they all by Bellini?
La Sonnambula, Il Pirati, La Straniera.
Oh, well, all of them. They're all mad bitches with mad high coloratura. Okay, let's go with that.
I really don't know.
I don't have any opinions.
I just
Gaetano Donizetti suffered from mental illness himself and died insane. So it is probably significant that many of his heroic heroines suffer from madness. Which of these Donizetti heroines does not go mad?
Ooh!
Anna Bolena, Linda di Chamonix,
Okay.
I think it's her.
Lucia di Lammermoor, obviously not.
Madeline William.
Maria Stuada.
I think it's Linda. Because isn't she the one who is the Ocheste,
Yeah.
Oluchik, whatever?
All the
pretty
squeaky,
aria?
squeaky.
Yeah. But it's not crazy aria. Unless she goes crazy after
I was
that.
going to say, I mean, Anna Bolena, yeah, she definitely sees visions at the end.
She definitely sees visions. Is that
dies,
equivalent to going mad?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think Stuada and Bolena arguably don't go mad, but they're about to, Bolena's facing death and just sort of gets...
Yeah,
a
it's
little
not
high-strung.
Yeah, but...
Again, let's go with... I don't know Linda de Chamonix.
I don't know at all.
She has a happy aria, which none of the others do.
That's what I'm thinking. And she's not a dramatic coloratura.
That's a good indication. So, but basing it on the fact that we know one tune from the opera between the 3 of us, and that
And my really light coloratura friends sing it.
and it's a light coloratura rather than a dramatic coloratura, we are going for what?
Linda.
I can't.
Chaminu?
I think
Yeah.
it's
Chamuni.
I've never actually said it right. Yeah.
Can someone else read?
I like you reading, you sound pretty. The title character of this early Verdi opera is based on the historical king of Babylon who had conquered Jerusalem and taken the Jews captive. Shortly after his entrance in Act 1, he places a crown upon his head and proclaims himself not only king, but God as well. This arouses the ire of the genuine article, who sends down a bolt of lightning to knock off the monarch's crown, and he spends much of the rest of the opera completely insane and dominated by his daughter. What is the opera? It's Nabucco, right?
Oh yeah, it's Nabucco.
I don't know Nabucco at all.
The Nabucco's the one with the chorus of the Hebrew slaves.
Yeah. That's literally all I know about it.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, I think it must be that. Yeah. Alright. This title heroine of a French opera is somewhat vexed when her fiancé abandons her to seek some buried treasure and never returns. However, when her pet goat disappears as well, she becomes completely undone.
That was the needle, or excuse me, that was the last straw.
And begins playing a game of tag with her own shadow. Who is she?
Who is she?
Esclarmonde, Dinora, Lacme. It's not Lacme.
No.
Myriel. I don't.
What are these operas?
Maybe it's like a Rameau or something.
I feel like if Rameau was then it'd be based on like Greek or. Ooh, we have no idea.
I don't know this one at all.
No.
I'm gonna go with Esclamond.
Alright,
Sure.
I was heading towards
Good
Myriel.
name.
Just because
So I was heading towards Dinora because I thought
Great,
maybe
so
it
we
sounded Greek.
Dinora, I think he sounds too Greek. I think it might be a bit of a red herring. Anyway,
It doesn't
we
need
have
to be Greek.
no fucking idea.
It's not about like what's
the Greekest?
the Greekest. It's about who's mad.
Okay, Mussorgsky's
No.
Mussorgsky's famous Boris Godunov concerns a Russian Tsar who has ascended the throne by murdering his predecessor's heir and is tormented by guilt thereafter. In one memorable scene, Boris imagines that he sees the ghost of the murdered Dmitri in one of the furnishings of his apartment.
Oh my god.
Where does he see the ghost?
If we had seen this opera,
I have, but it's
I
like 5 hours long.
Yeah, but
how come I haven't seen it? That's my excuse.
I watched it in
really
one of those.
confusing.
I think I watched it once, like a long time ago in university, like by myself in like the stacks.
I have no idea. I'm going to say on the
Crucifix?
crucifix feels pleasingly orthodox. In the
There's
wardrobe
something-
sounds a little bit like a ghost stories.
It
In
sounds
the
like
clock
French.
sounds like something that Ravel would write.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking that.
In the mirror is a little
Where
bit
you
mirror,
have, like,
mirror on the wall.
I'm gonna say crucifix because, like,
But it might be a little on the nose. Anyway, I'm going to go with crucifix.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, none of us have got any fucking idea.
The 20th century opera Cardillac
These are really hard.
concerns a demented Parisian jeweler who becomes so enamored of his creations that he murders his customers in order to get them back. Cardillac is the creation of which eminent German composer? Strauss. It's not Strauss.
Hindemith.
Yeah?
I think it's probably Hindemith because I don't know it.
It's not. I'm pretty sure it's not Berg.
I don't think it's
It
Berg.
sounds like a Hindemith
I think it's Hindemith.
Yeah.
thing.
I think I might even know it's Hindemith.
Okay.
I think I might even know it's Hindemith.
See, he's training me not to assert things that are vaguely floating around my head as
the
facts.
truth.
So I think there's something vaguely floating around my head that says that is a Hindemith opera. But it might just be because I used to play the viola and I like Hindemith. That could also be what's floating around my head.
Are you guys ready for this one? This 20th century opera
I
by
love
the
this
Polish
quiz.
composer Krzysztof Penderecki
Well, in America, yeah.
concerns a community of nuns who appear to have become demonically possessed by a prominent clergyman. Only after the offending clergyman has been quite brutally and sadistically tortured and put to death is it revealed that the whole thing was a hoax. Whoops! What is the opera?
I love it. It's kind of feminist.
Well-
We don't like priests. We're gonna fake insanity.
Okay, so it's obviously not Sor Angelica or
Or
Dialogues of
Dialogues.
Carmela.
The Jewels of the Madonna, or the
Oh,
Devils of... I mean, the Devils
I
of...
think it's the Devils of
Loudun?
Loudun. Just based on the title
Yeah.
and based on that there's only two choices. So it's 50-50. I know. Press it harder. There we go.
Okay,
She
submit.
Submit. I got like none of these right.
We're all like alphas here. straight A students.
I'm not an elf. Oh, I'm a straight A student.
Yeah, but we're
I'm not.
all sort of good little boys and girls. So even though we know none of these answers, we are kind of stressed. We took a test that we know none of the answers to, especially because we're all like professional singers.
Okay.
These are hard.
We
These
got
are
the
really hard.
first one wrong. It was not Radamisto, it was Orlando. Which is fair
I
enough,
didn't.
'cause we
I
had no
wasn't
idea.
involved in that.
We got Orestes right.
Ooh, good deduction.
We got
Ooh.
Electra right.
We knew that one.
We got E Puritani
That
right.
was me.
Well done.
We got. It was not Linda Di Chamini.
It was Maria Estrada.
I was going to say, I didn't think either of those got actually legit mad. Anyway, yeah, it's a big duet at the end. Anyway. But no, it wasn't.
That's a long fucking
Here.
description for that.
Oh, each opera is explained.
Oh, okay.
I-
Like, how can they just explain?
Linda starts off sweet.
Ooh, Marte.
Right. I don't know.
Okay.
That's too long. Nabucco was right.
Well done.
It was Dinora.
You were right. I mean, it was a total guess on all of our parts, but
But we
you were
all
right.
picked one each.
Hey,
Lisa
wait.
won. I got Lisa, that's what you get.
Let's see. Who? The hair. I want to see who it's by.
What?
I want to see
Yeah,
who the opera, like what the opera is.
But it's crazy. Who doesn't want to watch an opera about a goat? Probably most people. I'd watch an opera about a goat.
Doesn't say. Doesn't say who the opera's by.
It's a good quiz, but that's a massive oversight.
It's huge, was it?
It was in
In the
clock.
clock?
So French.
In this
Would
case,
not
very
have
Russian
got-
then.
Yeah, would not have got that. I did want to say that, but I just thought it was wrong. Alright.
And it was Hindemith.
Yeah.
Oh, and it was the Devils of Loudun.
How do we do? How do we do? What's our, how many points?
90 for 6 out of 10.
That should be.
It's above the average, though. The average is 5 out of 10.
Woo! I don't think we can take much.
If it was a
credit
curve test, then we'd win.
Oh. But you know, we got one right totally by guessing.
So?
Okay. Because we deduced 5. We deduced 5.
6 out of 10. Like
still
you
2-2.
knew all the answers to the tests that you were actually taking, any of those multiple choice
Exactly.
tests. It's a lot. Anyway. Yeah, no, not tenors. Sopranos.
Oh, no, I know nothing.
Early opera.
Definitely not.
No.
None of us.
Date with the devil.
Ooh, that one sounds cool.
Which one?
Opera all'inferno.
Ooh.
I feel like we're going to have to answer a lot of questions about Faust.
I think that would be similar to this, but this one looks easier.
Okay, let's do an easier one.
Then we
I
can
might-
get another hard one.
My brain needs a little bit of a break from the last one.
I think your ego needs more of a break than your brain.
You're needing a break. You're needing a break. Stop. I can't go that high. Stop it! You can go high, but I can sound really ugly and nasally. So.
So can I. As we know. La pensiero.
Stop.
I don't know the rest of the world.
Okay, Meyerbeer's Robert le Diable features as its title.
I'm sorry, what now?
Meyerbeer's Robert le Diable
Uh-huh.
features as its title character a young man who is the offspring of an illicit relationship between a woman and a demon named Bertram. As such, what?
I didn't know that. Could I have a cushion?
You may have a cushion.
I asked nicely. Do I get a present?
You'll get presents for
I
everything.
get presents for everything I do.
Let's see. One second. Let me just check on our audience. How you doing, audience?
Oh, we got me.
Hello. Okay, so if you're just joining us now, we're doing opera trivia, which is why I have my phone out and we're... Ooh, that's pretty. I have my phone out and we're playing games where we get points, except we're not recording the points. But we're having a great time, so... Okay. Alright, so... As such, Robert is half-demon himself, which causes him considerable anguish, particularly since he is in love with the virtuous Isabel. This opera featured a famous and quite grotesque
a ballet featuring which of the following?
Ooh.
This is fun. Angels, female demons, monks, nuns.
I mean, female demons is
I bet
an
it's
obvious
nuns.
thing. But yeah, I'd love
I want
it
it
was
to be
nuns.
I want it to be nuns.
Let's go for what we want. Nuns. We want nuns.
If not, someone should do that.
Prokofiev has it. Anyway.
There have been several operatic or quasi-operatic treatments of Goethe's Faust, including Gounod's Faust, Boito's Mephistopheles, Berlioz's La Damnation de Faust, and Busoni's Dr. Faust. Goethe's Faust contains a memorable speech in which Mephistopheles introduces himself thus: Ich bin der Geist, der stets verneint. Und das mit Recht, denn alles, was entsteht, ist wert, dass es zugrunde geht. I am the spirit that always negates, and justifiably so, for everything that exists deserves to be destroyed.
Mm.
Which of the following operatic versions of the Faust legend contains a version of this speech in which the form of an aria sung by Mephistopheles?
What?
Huh?
I didn't hear the question. You started laughing.
Sorry.
Because none of us are going to know this.
I think I do, and I think I saw Renee Papa singing it at the opera at the Berlin.
What is it then?
Schumann's?
Hang on, I didn't hear the question.
The text that I read
Yes.
is an aria.
Yes.
What's
Which
the
one?
aria? From which opera?
I think it's from Gounod's Faust, and I think I saw Renee Papa singing it at the Staatsoper, and I think the male chorus was all around the balcony.
Great. So good
I
enough.
mean, Mephistopheles definitely has an aria in
Gounod's Faust, and it's in
Do you
it's in French rather than in German, but it's
Yeah.
those words.
Oh, I don't know what the words are.
Felt like it was those words.
It
I might be- I might
felt
be-
like it was these words.
I might be stating something as fact. But
No. You're just you're making an educated guess. It's different.
Yeah.
You're not saying this is definitely right. You're saying I think that this.
I think it felt like that's what he was singing at us. He seemed
That's
like,
totally fair.
It felt like a talk to the audience. It felt like an audience address saying, "I am
Yeah.
bad. I am going to
Because no one
burn
else
this
is there.
bitch." Yeah, exactly. The male chorus sort of jollies
Yeah.
them on. It was awesome. For the record, it was awesome.
It was awesome. During rehearsals for Gounod's Faust, it was feared that Mephistopheles' appearance in one particular scene would cause great offense.
Oh.
Why? The scene takes place in a church.
Yeah.
He appears nailed to a cross. He was supposed to be naked in the scene. He is dressed as the Pope.
I thought all of the above, but that might just be Reggie Theatre. And it wasn't that production. Oh god.
Does he show up in church?
I think I had a feeling he showed up in a church, but then when he said about the cross, I was like, I thought he was on a cross, and then I was sure that I've seen him naked, and I'm sure someone's dressed him as the Pope just for good
Because
measure.
he shows up in the final scene, right? Is she in a church or she's in dungeon? She's praying, but she's in jail.
She's in jail. I think he might turn up as the Pope.
Really? That wasn't...
I don't know. I've seen
It's
so much
definitely-
Reggie Theatre. Anything could be.
It's definitely not that he's naked because
I think it
it's
takes
too
place in
early
church.
for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think being nailed to a cross would be quite extreme, so I feel like that
Yeah.
wouldn't happen. Dressed as a Pope, I think it just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think that's too
Be
much.
naked is Reggie Theatre, so I think that just
Yeah.
by
Just being in the church
deduct-
is enough.
deduction.
I think
Yeah, exactly. Being in
Gounod's
the
saying
church.
they're not going to
Yeah.
have someone
Nailed to a
naked.
cross.
Naked nailed to a cross now.
The Czech opera The Devil and Kate affords a rare comical treatment of the Pact with the Devil theme. Kate is a loquacious village girl whose unending chatter drives away any would-be suitors.
Oh my god, let her be a mezzo and let her be my role.
When none of the young men at a village fete will dance with her, Kate declares that she would be willing to dance with the devil himself if he would have her. Oh my god.
I want to play this role! It sounds awesome.
A handsome stranger named Mabule, who is, of course, you know who in disguise, Voldemort?
You know this him.
crossover, opera crossover.
Totally.
appears and literally dances her into hell. Even he, however, grows weary of Kate's constant chatter, and he is happy when a shepherd lad named Jirka lures her away.
Who wrote this opera?
I don't know. That's the question.
Oh.
Based on Bohemian folk legend, The Devil and Kate is the work of an eminent Czech composer who also wrote the better-known folktale opera Solka. Who's the composer?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Dvořák.
there's a ridiculous Dvořák opera.
That sounds amazing.
That sounds really fun.
I don't feel that Kate would be some melodramatic mezzo, but I think she could be a mezzo. I can't feel that role is glamorous enough for a soprano.
It could also be like a coloratura. Where it's like,
Oh yeah, that could, yeah.
Yeah. That would be predictable as well.
Anyway, I can't. We have to look that up afterwards.
That sounds funny.
If it is my role, I have to learn that aria.
Offenbach's operetta Orfeo features the god Pluto, who, as a ruler of the underworld, is the Roman mythological equivalent of Satan.
Sorry, what's the name of the opera?
Orfeo.
Oh,
was also
sorry.
In this I love how you make me repeat the French titles, which I'm not quite sure of anyway.
I just wanted to know more.
What is that again? Can you say it one more time?
You could just tell me in English, for the record, just translate it and I'll be happy. I just want to know.
Well, you didn't offend.
It's a personal joke.
It's a personal joke. It's an inside joke.
Lisa's got no idea what's going on here.
Because when we first started dating, there was something in French. There was something in French, and she acted like I knew what it should mean. I was like, God, I don't speak French. She was like, you don't speak French? And I was like, okay.
Might not be dead new again, bitch. In my defence, people my age from the UK all learn French in school. So
I'm neither your age nor from the UK.
I know. It's not a great defence.
It's their only defense. In this comic retelling of the classic Orpheus legend, Eurydice is driven quite mad by her husband's fiddling, and is lured voluntarily to the netherworld by Pluto himself.
I heard fiddling, not Valentine.
What?
Fiddling.
Fiddling?
Yeah. In my head, I was like, he's fiddling. Like, keep your hands still. I don't know. Anyway. It's a good thing I don't sing this stuff.
Pluto, taking a page from Jupiter's vast book of tricks, woos Eurydice by disguising himself. What disguise does he adopt?
a fly.
That's not one of the answers.
Oh, Pluto, not Jupiter's disguise. Sorry. Jupiter disguises himself as a fly and then seduces her as a fly.
A sailor?
That sounds fun.
It is.
I think it is a sailor.
That's how the duet starts.
Oh, God.
It's...
You just sang Frere Jacques.
You know.
But that's how it starts.
Is it really at the beginning of Frere Jacques? Oh my god, that's amazing. Bonus points. Mickey.
Trying to remember how he
sang Pluto. So I'm guessing whatever he turns himself into, it was hilarious when Mickey did it.
I
think it's a sailor.
What are my options? Not that
Shepherd, sailor, satyr, soldier.
What was the second to last one?
Satyr.
It could be a shepherd. It's not a satyr.
What the hell is a
satyr?
A satyr's like, it has like a horse body and...
No, goat feet.
Oh!
Yeah.
Goat feet
body
and like...
Yeah,
and
center is the one with the
person head.
And
horns. That's it, yeah.
I just know that because I've watched.
I think it's
I
sailor.
feel like I've seen photos of Mickey dressed as a sailor.
Sure.
If nobody has a better one, I'm going to say sailor.
I think it's either sailor or shepherd.
I think I'm leaning towards shepherd.
Okay. Bedřich
No,
Smetana's 1882 opera The Devil's Wall concerns the aspirations of the wealthy Vuk Vitkovich to find a suitable bride. He eventually is united with the virtuous Hedvika, despite numerous obstacles thrown in his path by the devil Rarach. Rarach is in league with a villager named Benesi, who wants Vuk to remain single for reasons of his own. What, ironically, is Benesi's profession?
Matchmaker. That would be the most ironic thing.
Religious hermit, I think, is the most ironic.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
What are the other options?
Shoemaker, blacksmith, and innkeeper.
None of those are ironic.
The
Let's go with
hermit.
Okay. Let's go with matchmaker.
Let's write in our own answer.
Matchmaker, moving on.
Moving on, we got that. I just love the fact that there's such an it's wonderful, involved explanation with so many lovely names
and then it's like, what's the most ironic?
Yeah, we don't have any into those.
Ferruccio Busoni's 1925 opera Dr. Faust is one of the most recent operatic treatments of the Faust legend. The depiction of Mephistopheles in this version is notably different from that of Gounod, Berlioz, and Boito versions. To begin with, he is portrayed by a tenor. Faust is a baritone, which reverses the usual order. Also, he appears in numerous guises throughout the opera. Which of these is not a disguise adopted by Mephistopheles in the opera?
Oh, this is going to be fun.
A monk,
Hang on,
chaplain...
when was this opera written?
1925.
Okay.
A monk, a chaplain, a night watchman, a king.
I'm going to guess a night watchman.
Why?
Because I feel like you probably would want to be a monk, a chaplain, and a king.
Yeah, but it's 1925. I feel like people are shaking things up at that point.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So they would have him as a chaplain or a monk.
Yeah.
And a night watchman
No.
seems boring.
But I think...
You think a monk is too...
Yeah. I think I'd go between monk and chaplain because they're like dramaturgically too
They're
similar.
kind of the same thing, yeah. Well, sort of, I guess.
I have no idea.
We have no idea.
I don't even guess.
I'm just saying...
Does anybody out there in the internet know?
The least obnoxious of them.
It's
the
the least
likely to offend.
Yeah, it is the least likely to offend.
The least likely to offend.
Yeah. I mean, that whole thing about making the Mephistopheles...
No, I get it. It's just I'm wondering.
I don't think that's a consideration at this point in time. I think it's people
Want to offend, right. So then...
Yeah, but I think just dramaturgically, like, going... He's the Pope. He's the King.
I bet it's a monk.
I think it's monk or chaplain.
Yeah, I think it's monk or chaplain.
Sure.
I know nothing.
Monk.
I have no idea.
It's going to be a night watchman. And this is going to be right. And we're going to be really sorry.
Douglas Moore's 1939 folk opera The Devil and Daniel Webster relates the story of a villager whose soul is lost after he makes a deal with the devil. What is the name of the devil in this opera?
Bob.
Nick, Scratch, Lucius, Smoke.
Who wrote it?
Douglas Moore.
Did we know anything about him?
Nope.
Wait, I feel like we should have been on
In
this.
1939.
So we're assuming he's British speaking, English speaking, so American or British, or Welsh, or Scottish, Irish.
There's, we can keep going with the English-speaking countries if you're,
No,
if you're really committed.
I'm committed to not being imperialist English. So I had to...
Maybe Scratch?
That feels weirdly right.
Okay. In Stravinsky's The Rake's Progress, the devil appears in person of a fellow named Nick Shadow and leads the rake, with the title appropriately named Tom Rakewell, to rack and ruin. The Rake's Progress was based on a series of paintings of the same name by which of these celebrated English artists?
William Blake, isn't it?
That's not...
So we have
It's not a
John Singer Sargent, William Hogarth, William Turner, Sir Joshua Reynolds.
Oh my god, I should know this.
Dave just showed me these paintings.
What do they look like?
I don't know.
Well, I had William in my head. So maybe
William
one...
Turner?
William Turner?
I don't think it's Turner, no. Turner doesn't feel right.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it is.
I don't know.
What was the other William?
William Hogarth.
I can't believe I'm committing this to the internet, but I'm going to go with William Hogarth.
Okay.
I have no
Fine.
idea.
I think this is really wrong, and I love that opera.
I don't know. In May of 2003, English composer Richard Thomas premiered an opera at London's National Theatre in which a famous American trash talk show host is sent to hell.
Jeffrey Springer.
Yeah.
It's got an amazing role. That was going to be Aria, so I decided to say role for a fat chick pole dancer that I've always had my eye on. Casting directors.
Casting directors. This one.
I can really, really pole dance and sing.
And
I don't know if the singing's
it was Dancing Nuns. It was Dancing Nuns.
Dancing Nuns, yay!
Dancing Nuns.
We got one right.
Just by sheer force of we want to see
It was
dancing.
Boito's Mephistopheles
Oh,
Okay.
with the aria.
with the aria.
Oh, what you were saying then.
The scene does take place in a church. The Czech opera Devil in the Cage is Dvorak, we already knew that. It wasn't Sailor, it was Shepherd
Oh, I thought Shepherd.
for Offenbach's.
It seems suitably...
Yes, religious tournament was the most ironic option. It was a king. A king was the answer. No, that's not.
So a monk and a chaplain and a night watchman, but not a king.
I feel that there was...
Dramaturgically, that's way too similar.
Yeah, but maybe there's something in a monastery.
Thank you, Lava Slug. Someone said congrats. That's all. Go ahead.
I think they might be being ironic.
What?
You just...
No, they're not. They're saying
Okay.
congrats.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I don't know how the internet works. Where are we up to?
You were talking about the...
Yeah, maybe there's like
Dermatological
something
reasons.
going on in a monastery or whatever. So maybe you need like the devil to sort of be a few different characters who can all let someone in.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I've never seen it.
I love how we're just like committed to.
We're just like,
Making
we
sure.
haven't seen any of these.
In fairness, they're
It was Scratch. Scratch was the name
Yes.
of the Devil in Douglas Morris
Okay, and here
1939
we
opera.
go.
Is he American?
William Hogarth, you were right.
Ah, yes! I can't believe I said William Blake, but yes! I knew it was a
Wait,
William.
what was your question?
Was Douglas more American?
Yeah, definitely American. Set in New Hampshire.
Wow.
This is interesting, actually. Set in New Hampshire, the opera begins with the wedding of a young couple, Jabez and Mary. Jabez is disturbed by the appearance of the lawyer Scratch, who the devil's a lawyer, who carries a mysterious black box. It soon becomes apparent to those assembled that Jabez has sold his soul to the devil. He later explains to Mary he did this out of frustration over his seemingly interminable run of bad luck.
Right?
Webster succeeds in overcoming Scratch, and the good people of New Hampshire drive the demon from their soil.
Dark.
Moore collaborated with Benet himself on this opera, which is among his best-known works, along with the Ballad of Baby Doe and Coronation.
Yeah.
That's who.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's because I was like, I kind of recognize the name, but I don't know why.
I don't feel too bad about not knowing that.
I don't feel bad not knowing any of these things, to be honest.
I'm impressed that I got William Hogarth right. Although I'm embarrassed that I was...
Okay, so it is Lava Slugs being sincere. they went to high school with me.
Thank you, love. Oh my
um,
god, you need Baby Holden.
mhm.
Friend me on Facebook, I love stories.
Though, well, elementary through high school, lol.
Oh my god.
Small town life.
Yeah, you need like
Gaylord.
Gaylord, computer geek. I mean, he still is a computer geek, but a more glamorous one these days.
Yeah, probably slightly more glamorous. Yeah. Lava Slug, you probably have, well, at least mental pictures. There's probably no actual pictures. But anyway. So now it is 1700, also known as 5 o'clock.
To the Americans.
Yes. Well, but the Americans know how to say 1700 hours as well, but we... Anyway.
Military time.
Military time.
It's also 11 there,
Yes.
Well, it depends where you are.
at the earliest.
Yeah.
The latest. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It's 11.
The latest? Yes, the latest. You're right. The latest.
Time zones are hard.
So now is the time to do discussion of the article and the video. That's what it's time for.
Okay, great.
So, let's take a break from opera trivia.
I like that. That was fun.
That was fun. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as we did.
Fun and humiliating.
Fun and humiliating.
I am going
What
to
we'd like
go
to do at the
and
weekends.
get some water.
Sure.
Do you want to make us coffee? Oh, you're sick. Do you want me to make you coffee?
You want to make us
I don't
coffee?
want coffee, but
Would you like more
is
mate?
there still coffee left, Holden?
I'll have leftover coffee.
There's a bit of leftover coffee, yeah.
And
And
isn't
bring-
it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Take that.
Also, Hannah's going to be here in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Nail varnish. Also, do you have any nail varnish?
Yes, here. do-
Also, I'll come.
Huh? Okay. So,
Oh, I'm
okay.
not allowed to kiss you on mine.
Wait.
Oh, my legs. Oh, fucking hell.
Okay. Anyway, so okay, looks like all of my friends have left me. So
Do you want me to say?
no, it's fine, it's fine. So I will talk to the camera for a bit because it's my show. So, what we're going to do next is to talk about the article and the video that I posted. So if you haven't seen those, you can go to, there's different sources you can go to. You can go straight to my website where the article that I posted is. The article is about why you should not ask a trans person what their name before coming out was. That's what the article is about. And the video that I posted on YouTube, which you are on my YouTube channel right now, so it's easy to find, is about airport security and what airport security is like as a trans person, how you can help as an ally. So, those are the two topics of discussion that we have. We also have one more friend who's coming at some point. So, I was just explaining to the internet what we could be talking about, which is about airport security or about why you shouldn't ask a trans person what their name is before they came out.
This is a serious section. Okay. I'll stop pissing about.
We're talking about serious. I mean, we can still have fun, but we're
No, but
it's not opera trivia.
I was pretending to be a cat.
I noticed. I was ignoring you.
You're very good at that. Yes.
Okay. So, yeah. Thank you, Lava let's. Well, Lisa watched the video a little bit earlier. I don't know if she read the article. You've read the article, obviously.
Yes.
This is yours. No, that's
Are you? Would you like to join us, or do you want to take a break?
I need to read it. That's Holden's.
Yeah. What?
That one's yours.
How was that his?
Oh, thank you.
Oh, because it was his before.
Yes.
Like, I don't see any difference.
I'm gonna go read the article.
Okay. Okay. So, you've read the article. Would
Yes.
you like to sit in a normal position, or are you comfortable?
I was comfy, and now I'm suddenly feeling self-conscious about my booty. I'm not used to being on screen, especially when I've got so little clothing.
Okay, so the article that, like I said, we'll talk about the article first. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so the article that I posted was about why you shouldn't ask a trans person what their name was before coming out. So we've talked about this before, but what did you think about the article? Was there anything that you found interesting, or anything that you think that I should have elaborated on? Anything?
From the article, I liked the extended sort of simile, the extended metaphor of the emotions of what it feels like for you personally.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've explained to me, not a lot, but enough so that I can explain to other people why they shouldn't do that. But I think it's kind of the article itself I like because I like the viscerality of the image of being so sick, and I think it's important that you say that trans people aren't sick, and that's not the thing, but it's the thing about sort of that great life endangering precipice of your existence situation that that hopefully cis people can relate to.
Yeah, because I think because it is I think when people are sick, that's why I don't know. I mean, I use the metaphor for another article, sort of, not so explicitly, but being sick is physically really, really draining. I think it's also a good comparison to make for when someone's depressed, which trans people are when they're feeling really dysphoric, and so it feels similar to depression, but with the added sort of gender context of it.
I think it's an interesting point as well you make about so you go through the story and then you say you reluctantly, the person in your story reluctantly pulls out a photo, shows the photo, and the person's like, oh my god, you look so pretty.
Yeah.
And like, and that's what people do. They're like, oh my god, that's such an interesting name, let's talk about that name for a little bit. I want to validate your, and it often comes from a place of people wanting to engage positively and wanting to sort of, okay, so as a cis person and who's made so many of these mistakes myself on my learning curve, I think for the first motivation, it's a very sort of often a very self-referential one. It's not particularly about the trans person.
Yeah, it's about like what would I feel like hearing if I was in this situation, which I think sometimes works. Like if you're talking to just people in general, and you think, oh, how would I react to someone saying this to me? Sometimes that works, but
that's not even what I meant. I mean, like the motivation for saying something, the motivation for asking the question.
I see.
So it's
oh, I see what you mean. Okay.
So the motivation for asking the question is basic human curiosity.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with basic human curiosity, but I think what cis people have to do is just put a little beat between shit I would like to know because I am curious about this person and this situation that I do not understand, and shit that is going to damage, hurt, I mean, offend is a too-large word in this context, damage or hurt the person who I'm talking to. Yeah, because it is interesting. Someone's name, you're creating a picture of this person, and someone's dead name is a piece of information that is interesting. And if you stop there, you just end up with cis people going, why can't I have this piece of interesting information about you?
I want it.
I want it.
I want it. Why can't I have this piece of information?
I feel that
I am entitled to this piece of information.
it's what it feels like to trans people.
Yeah.
See? Well, cis people are just going, interesting piece of information. You were called a name until you were 16
Well, here's
years
the thing.
old.
Here's the thing. This is the difference, and this is what I think a lot of trans people feel, and what I tried to make very clear in the article is that like it almost never stops at, oh, that's interesting. What was your name before? And then the trans person just kind of like, oh, I don't really want to tell you. Almost invariably, if the person, I say almost because there have been times where someone's like, oh, okay, sorry. But most of the time, people are like, no, I really want to know. Why won't you tell me? And they're not usually that aggressive, but usually they will say like, oh, no, it's fine, just tell me. Almost invariably. And that's the part that I wanted to make really clear in the dialogue, in the article. It's like, most people don't stop. Most people will keep pushing because they want to know, and that's where the entitlement comes in. Because there's nothing wrong with curiosity, and if you don't know, you're not supposed to ask a trans person their name or other piece of information, whatever. If you don't know, that's fine as far as I'm concerned. It's like you genuinely don't know, and I'm going to tell you.
This is why
Don't ask it. I'm just going to tell you, like, no, that makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to tell you. And then you should drop it. You should drop it. But that's where I feel that a lot of people start feeling entitled is when they start pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I wanted to make clear in the article is that most people don't stop at the first question.
When people ask me what your dead name
Was?
Yeah, well, sorry, my brain was running in German. I'm sorry about that. What your dead name was? It does always go to why. I always get the why can't.
But
We know that.
Yeah.
But it's generally, I mean, from my side, my experience of the why question has always been a genuine why. Like, not like
Well, no.
why, but just like, oh God, why? What is that? I didn't really think about that. Which is the point. People don't think about it, and they don't have a scope for thinking about it because as cis people, we rarely have this association with our names. You know, this sort of every time. I mean, in sort of cis world, if our names are changed, it's either our choice for positive reasons and positive experiences, like
like marriage,
like getting married, or taking stage names, or
it's radically different.
Going into religious orders.
I don't know any other people in the world besides trans people who have to change their names, and they have to basically because they don't want to be associated with that name anymore.
I mean, I think there probably is. We just don't know about that.
No, I'm sure.
Running
but
away
I'm just,
from pasts and escaping
like people
past horrors.
In what do you call it? People in protective services and stuff, like that sort of thing. But that's slightly different as well. It's not. It's like you're forced to leave something behind. It's not like you're choosing.
It's very, very specific.
That's why nobody gets it, which is fine. That's why I wrote the article. In any case, to just sort of explain that, because I had one friend in particular, and he was very, very sweet about it, and he's very good at listening about this kind of stuff. And he was,
who was it?
What? We can talk about it later. He was just really, really sweet about it. He was just like, I know I'm not supposed to do this.
Ooh.
But I don't know why. And it's okay if you don't want to tell me. But I would like to know why, because it would help me understand why I'm not supposed to ask. And he knew already. He was just like, I know I'm not supposed to ask. That's fine. I won't ask. But I just don't know why. Which is completely fair, because it helps you not ask if you know why. You know, I mean, for anything in life, it's just like I don't know. I can't think of other examples, but like, for example, children ask lots of really offensive things, and they're like, but why can't I ask? Like, I don't know. Why can't I ask questions about that?
Oh, thank you. This is a really good example. I'm trying to associate myself with an online alias I had for several years because it was given by an abusive ex. I think that's about as close as I can get to understand as a cis person. That's a really great example.
That is
Lava Slug.
Yeah.
That's a really, really great example, actually. Because you had a positive association with that for a while, but then had really negative feelings about it, and you've tried to get away from that. But, and I mean, we grew up in the same generation. These online aliases that you have such an attachment to. They are like names. So I think actually you probably have a pretty similar experience. There's no gender associated with that, but it's a really similar experience, actually. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, because it is a part of you, and you don't necessarily... and then when you have a negative experience or a negative connotation to it, then...
So I guess, when you're talking about the situation where people go... It's hard to say these things. When you were a girl, what were you called, Holden?
Mm-hmm.
What is it? Can you sort of summarize? I mean, you do it in the article, but can you summarize? What's the feeling and what's the fear? Maybe you say something about fear in the article, and what would you prefer to happen when someone has that? Because it's a kind of curiosity. It is a genuine curiosity about the Holden they have in front of them. And they want this piece of information that they think will answer that curiosity. But there's so many other less triggering ways to ask about Holden's experience of the world before he came out, right? So what other questions can sort of scratch that curiosity itch and engage someone rather than push them away and make them feel dysphoric and make them feel, I'm answering my own question here, but make them feel whatever they feel that is negative associated with a dead name. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just want to make it really... Sorry, are you talking specifically about dead name stuff? Well... Okay, I think I get it. So you're asking, what are alternative questions that will give the person kind of the same thing that they're looking for?
Yeah.
Because the name doesn't actually give anybody anything. A name is just a name. A name is easily changed. Well, or in the case of trans people, it's very, very difficult to change your name.
But lots of people don't even have their real names used as kids. Most kids
have a nickname.
Have a nickname.
Yeah.
I had a childhood nickname. I was barely called Emma for sort of 5 years of my life.
So, for example, like, I don't know, like other questions. There's tons of relevant questions, that, and they're totally normal questions that you would ask other people, actually. Just sort of like, for example, like, what was your favorite thing to wear as a kid? And also it makes it completely gender neutral. You don't like, because like, for example, my clothing was generally very gender neutral as a kid, and I do say openly like that I was like a girl, like I was raised and socialized as a girl, but
me too.
But it's totally fine to just say kid, like we're all just kids at that age. So for example, like, what did you wear as a kid? What did you play as a kid? Like, what was your favorite music as a kid? Like, there's actually the same questions, and they're questions that you would ask a cisgender person, but instead of asking those things, we immediately go to, like, names and genitalia for trans people, you know? Whereas, like, for example, when I posted on Instagram asking for questions for the Q&A, and for articles and stuff, I had a lot of really, really interesting questions about, like, gender and sexuality and all of these really relevant questions about singing and stuff. And then I had some people who were like, what was your favorite Zelda game as a kid? And I was like, oh my god, yeah!
And that is far more revealing than your dead name.
Yeah, you don't get anything from my dead name, but, like, asking me what my favorite Zelda game is, I could talk about that for days. I did earlier, talk about it for an hour.
And because I love him, I listen.
You even watch me play it sometimes when I'm really sad.
I had a really nice time.
Yeah, with Majora's Mask. I was talking about that. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, if someone asked, they were... well, wait, did they?
Or did you just start talking about
Start
Zelda?
talking about Zelda.
Are we just talking about Zelda again?
No. Okay,
wanna
so
be-
nobody was asking me questions earlier in the Q&A. Erica was asking me some questions, which I really appreciated. There was a period of time where people weren't asking questions, so I was like, "What's my favorite Zelda game?" Because someone on Instagram asked me, so I talked about it. And then Erica asked me some stuff about Zelda, so we talked about Zelda for a while,
And now we're talking about Zelda again.
and we had a great time, and that's fine. We can talk about Zelda.
We can always talk about Zelda.
Anyway, so yeah, so those are like alternative questions that you could ask trans people because
What was your favourite book?
It was my favorite book. Yeah, stuff like that. Or like if you wanted to know something more about gender, you just have to be.
About gender, isn't it?
Yeah, but like there's other questions you can ask. You can just be like, first of all, you could ask the question, how do you refer to yourself as a child? Like you can just ask because like I refer to myself in like my current pronouns and my current name. So I use like if someone's saying like little Holden or like whatever, little Holden, he blah blah blah.
He was so cute.
But I was a girl, so it would be accurate to say like little Holden was a girl, for example. Little Holden, he was a girl.
Can I chime in?
Yeah.
On this
Mhm.
theme of linguistics,
Mhm.
and we're both first language English speakers.
Mhm.
It is tricky. I think I don't know if you talk about that anywhere else on your blog or whatever, but just I want to say for the sort of cis audience that hasn't encountered many trans people, there is some mental gymnastics.
No, it's hard.
You need
It's totally hard.
you just be patient. Don't get sort of scared off by the fact. I remember having a conversation with with my father about we'd had coffee with Holden, and we were talking about probably video games that Holden played as a child, let's be honest. And we were discussing Holden in the past, and we were using his current name and his accurate pronouns. And Dad joined in and did everything beautifully, and then once Holden had gone, he asked this question about, but Holden was a female at this point, so what's with the pronouns? It strikes me as wrong. And we had a great conversation about, first of all, what the sort of the norms around this and what the safe, if you don't know like what Holden's preferences regarding talking in the past are. So yeah, what the safe norms are if you don't know someone, and then also we had a wonderful talk about it feels odd to me, which is something that he said, which is fine. It's okay
Yeah,
that
that's
it
totally
feels
fair.
odd to you.
Yeah, it doesn't have to feel normal because it's not part of a cisgender person's experience of the world. So of course it's not going to be your normal.
Yeah. And that's all right.
Yeah, it's totally fine. It's just about asking questions, and that's why I have this YouTube channel. This is why I have my website. This is why I make these articles. That's why I'm launching this Patreon. Is to answer these sorts of questions and make myself open to it because I don't mind talking about it. And there's a lot of trans people that do, which is fair, which is totally fair because it's hard. It's hard talking about it. Even for me, it's hard talking about it, but it's I don't mind, and I have a huge support system, and I live in a relatively liberal country, and it's
We
great.
like to throw force fields.
That'd be a good photo op.
Creepy force fields in my case.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's
That's that.
it's okay to feel uncomfortable, and it's okay that your brain needs to work, and it is okay to take that beat before doing the linguistic gymnastics.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay to like obviously need a second because that's fine. Like for example, I would much prefer instead of someone just kind of like chattering on and then using the wrong pronoun. I would much prefer to be like blah blah blah. He, blah 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 blah, and then it's like you got it, and then you practiced it, and then it gets in your brain and it gets in your muscle memory as well, and then you're closer. And I earlier in the Q&A I talked about ways to practice pronouns.
Oh, great.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you're not a first language English speaker, respect for learning to speak English, it's really fucking hard. And yeah, just go easy on yourself and let yourself go slower with it, because we're doing this in German at the moment, and you know we're
like we were just talking about like gender neutral pronouns in German, and that's tough, and that's hard because in English we have it, and I mean in English it's relatively simple because we just have like male pronouns and female pronouns, and then we have gender neutral they, and there's other pronouns as well that people use, but people have a lot of oh, one second, I have a comment. Glad you went over that because I'm ignorant to how to talk about your past since I knew you as a kid. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah.
It's one that comes up a lot.
That's true, yeah, it's actually really relevant for you. I'm glad I talked about it. Yeah, so, yeah. Well, oh yeah, in German it's like, so like in German there's male and, there's like male and female pronouns, but then there's no actual gender neutral pronoun, there's no gender neutral thing in the middle, like you wouldn't, because it's like
it's a thing.
It's a thing. So you combine them. So instead of saying like it's the equivalent is, so like in German it's like sie or sie. The equivalent would be saying he, she. So which
is really unpleasant.
Which is unpleasant in English. And Germans don't really like it either. Actually, I've talked to a lot of Germans.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've talked to Germans, and they generally respect me about it. But sometimes we'll be speaking in German, and they'll be like, "Oh, you're an English speaker. We can talk in English because you use the they pronoun, and we can use they with you." And I was like, "Oh, but I really want to speak German, and I want to respect your. I will respect your German pronouns if you tell me your German pronouns. I will ask your German pronouns, and then I will respect them. But it's hard because even Germans, like non-binary terms.
And just taking a little linguistic diversion. So you've got your nominative pronoun in German, which is sie, and then through all the other cases, you have a bunch of other things.
You just start combining.
You just have to keep on combining
just
the male and female version. And I have to say, I can't gender a fucking table correctly in German reliably. You know, once I start talking in past conditional and doing complex ideas, I forget the gender of a table. So what I'm saying is, if you're in a second language, you know, just take the extra time.
Yeah.
Keep on taking the extra time. And also people forgive you. If you're a second language speaker, it's definitely. It's totally forgiven.
And
not necessarily less triggering, but
also, just as an interesting point, I know like a lot of languages have lots of different things. So I just wanted to send a heart emoji. There we go. A lot of languages have different solutions to that. Yeah. So just it's interesting. It's interesting. So if you, excuse me,
het. I think it's het in Swedish.
Oh yeah.
They introduced
a gender neutral. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For everyone. Mm-hmm. It wasn't without social upheaval and argument, but
it's there.
It's there.
It's cool. Do we want to talk about the video a little bit? Do we want to take a slight departure?
Yeah, sorry, my necklace just broke.
Oh, it just broke, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's doing that quite a lot recently. Sad.
Really nice
necklace.
Really
nice necklace. It's dead cheap. Etsy. I might put a link to the Etsy profile of the person who gave it to me. What were we? Telemarketing. No, what was it called?
What? Oh, yeah. Oh,
we're selling jewellery online.
Yeah. What do you call that? Do you call it telemarketing? No. What do we call it?
Something else. It's TV sales. I don't know. Anyway,
I forget what it's called.
Anyway.
Infomercials.
Infomercials. It's a really good second-hand jewellery shop on Etsy. I might actually do that. Tell them.
Can you move that? I want to sit back. Okay. Thank you.
Only if I get a cuddle.
Is this a cuddle?
Robot boy.
Is this a cuddle? So, do we know if Hannah is here?
I heard her. Well, I haven't actually heard her, but I heard her.
I haven't heard her, but I heard someone ring.
Generally, Hannah is a person you hear.
Yeah.
But I'm generally a person you hear, and I think I came in quite quietly.
You also came in quite quietly, so.
Don't leave me alone.
Can you?
I'll go get Hannah. Don't leave me alone with the computer. I'll bore India by the time you come back or something. Oh my god, I put that in.
I
said that. Let's just brush over that.
Okay, so next on the topics, because we already talked about how to refer to it. Well, we talked about a lot of stuff, but why you shouldn't ask about a trans person's name before the transition. Sorry, I'm distracted because everybody's really high pitched now. So, next topic would be the video that I posted about airport security. Here's Hannah!
Oh my god!
I thought you just slammed the door on her.
Like slapstick comedy. What is it? I'm sweaty.
It's 5:30.
I need to go to my German lesson. Speaking of fucking equal German pronouns.
The internet.
Hi, internet. Hello,
So-
the slug. Oh, that's
so-
my
Give them a
tits.
good kind of.
You know.
I'm in the middle of this. I'm
Video.
uncomfortable. I need an adult. Okay.
So-
You have to pay extra to see them kiss.
I'll give you. No, dude, there's
I'll
no.
give you a kiss.
That's not what the Patreon platform's for.
Are you sure? See, I can kiss Hannah, but I can't kiss my.
You can kiss me on the cheek. I don't
Hashtag-
want PDA on my
Hashtag
videos.
feminism. It's legit. All right, darling. I will
Bye.
not kiss you later.
Okay, great. I love you very much.
I hope you do.
Goodbye.
Oh my god. Hi.
Hi. Hi. It's good to see you. So I
Are we
have.
live?
Yeah, we're live.
Holy shit.
We're live right now. Yeah.
I just swore. Does that get beeped out?
No, it's fine. We're not on the radio.
We should be.
Or on TV. We're on my channel, so we can
Oh
do
my god.
whatever
your
we want.
Channel.
So, and so that's legging, just to let you know. So that's why we have a couple of people watching right now.
Who's with us right now?
Lava Slug's with it.
What a
with
cool
us.
name.
Lava Slug. Hello.
Oh my god, I feel famous. I'm so excited.
So Lava Slug and I went to high school together, and so
Okay.
they're watching right now, and I'm really excited. Actually,
Amazing.
um,
I'm a big
actually,
fan of theirs.
I'm not able to see actually who it is. I just know we went to high school
I
together.
like how we
so
coordinated.
I'm
It's
really excited to see
we're like
who
good
you
and
are.
evil.
Lava Slug. What?
We're like good and evil. Because you're white and I'm black.
Oh, a little bit.
There you go.
We had a whole opera trivia about the devil earlier, which I won't go into now.
Okay.
So,
You'll
did
catch
you
it.
watch my video?
I did.
You did watch the video. Oh, friends.
You're so handsome.
Okay, I'll stop. So we just talked about the article that I wrote. Like, Emma and I
Okay.
just talked about the article I wrote. So
About not asking dead names.
yes, exactly. So we just
Do it.
we talked about it. It's okay.
Okay. But they need to know, like, just in case you didn't get it, like, don't do it.
Hallie! Oh my God! Hello! Oh, thank you.
This is our dream coming true.
What?
We wanted to have a podcast and talk about this stuff.
I feel like I need my bear costume back. Anyway, so let's talk about the airport security video. So,
Okay.
First of all, what was your reaction to the video? Was there anything that was surprising? Or, yeah, tell me.
Yeah,
Tell me
no,
what
like,
your
Lisa and I were
reaction
actually just talking about this, the whole, like, if you wear a binder, to not wear that through. This is something I was like, oh my god. Because I would be thinking so much more about being worried about my documents and having people use my old name.
Yeah. I mean, that was the main.
Yeah,
the main
but then on top of it,
yeah, on top of it.
you have, like, the dysphoria of being like, oh, today I can't even physically be what I need to be.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to get patted down and have to explain to people. And, like, airport security, amazing. We love you. You do your job, and we're really thankful for you to keep us safe. But it's like you do not want to, like, have a conversation with them about that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Totally.
That's so rough. Like, you don't want to get patted down and be like, hey, TSA agent at 8:30 in the morning. Let me explain to you what I'm wearing beneath my shirt. So that was the thing that kind of really stuck out to me.
Yeah, and binders are tough because also like specifically with like when you're like flying, like wearing a bra is hard enough when you're flying, let alone like something that's really like constricting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so
I mean, I can't imagine. Jesus.
it's just so not only is it like hard to fly with a binder,
Right.
but like it can show up on the screen and stuff.
Right.
Binders are less of a worry than some other stuff, but that's a big worry. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have talked about this before, and like having been honored and proud enough to like be with you like on this journey and like see your entire transition happen. I mean, the thing that has really stuck out to me is like you having had to do this before, like go through customs in the United States, in a part of the United States that maybe like could be a little hairy to deal with, going through customs with this kind of stuff. And just like
God, it's. I hate flying so much, and I hate being in airports already. Yeah. And I'm like a cis white person, So like, if it's bad for me, like I can't even imagine like this extra stress of like, oh my God, are they gonna look at my visa? Are they gonna look at my? Are they gonna say my dead name? Are they gonna ask me questions about it?
Yeah, and there's always that fear. I've done it so much now that I've had to do auditions and going back and forth between the UK and stuff. Like, I'm less scared of it, but it still makes me nervous, and I have to like forcibly like calm myself down when I'm at the airport.
That was the other thing in the video that you talk about. It's like, don't lose your cool.
Yeah,
and like
that's hard. I can't say that too because it's like, don't freak out.
Right.
It's like
where it's like, calm down, relax. I'm like,
don't tell me what to do.
But it's so true because like my first reaction to this stuff is I would just like throw a chair. I'm like, let me kill you, But you can't do that because you're in an airport, But I was shocked by that because I think you and I have talked a lot about like righteous anger with this kind of stuff, and it's so legit that you'd get mad about it. But it is a good reminder to like don't get arrested.
Yeah, just take deep breaths. Learn to meditate.
Yeah, what do you do to kind of get through this?
Honestly, I treat myself really nicely when I'm going to the airport, and I give myself lots of time to go to the airport.
Smart.
Because if I'm rushed for time, then I'm just like everything's setting me off anyway.
Yeah.
If I'm rushed for time, then once I get to the security, I'm just like, let me through, and then they're gonna be like, first of all, no, and what is with this gender?
Right on top of it, what kind of bullshit is this? And you're just like,
no, I just want to go through. Yeah, so I always give myself a huge amount of time, and I don't leave myself like more than is normal, but I never give myself too little time.
That's really smart.
And then I'm always just sort of like, I have extra time, and I know I'm gonna make my flight. There's no worry about that, so I'm not stressed about that. And I think that's the main thing that people get stressed about at airports.
Yeah.
Anyway, security's annoying anyway, but if I'm not stressed, then I'm not going to stress other people out. They're not going to stress me out. I also make sure this. It sounds really stupid, but like I get really hot in airports.
Yeah.
I get hot in general.
It's
but,
hot
like,
right now. I gotta
it's
say,
really hot.
Shout out to Holden for wearing a button down. It's like 90 degrees outside right now.
It's for you guys.
Have you ever had like on the flight anything weird happen? Like with people saying nice to you or no? Okay.
No, that's never happened.
That's good. Yeah.
Most people just leave me alone.
That's true because no one really talks to each other anymore.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah, thankfully. I hate people.
I'm like, don't talk to me.
Yeah. No, but I always try to like keep physically cool.
Yeah.
Like if I get hot in an airport, then I start throwing chairs and I start throwing my bags around. I'm like,
Yeah.
So like if I make sure that like I have like a really light t-shirt on, I make sure that I'm wearing like if it's summer or whatever, I make sure I wear shorts, or I make sure I have like I used to wear, well, I still sometimes wear my nice shoes, but I make sure to like take them off for security. So sometimes I'll dress up if it's like winter or something, and I know I'm not going to be too hot. Sometimes I'll dress up a little bit, but I make sure that I like take off my coat and I make sure that I'm layering.
Yeah.
And if it's summer, I'm probably already irritable, but I try to keep cool anyway. Or I try to make sure that I have like I have water or that's and that I'm caffeinated if it's early in the morning.
Yeah,
it sounds really basic, but
it's true. I think it's like sometimes you're so stressed out you forget these things, and it's really important to remember to like do the self-care before, during, and after.
Yeah, totally. Self-care is huge, and it doesn't take that much.
No,
it's just it needs to be like mindful.
It needs to be consistent.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, totally. And I'm trying to think of what else.
Did you have like the binder situation happen? I don't think we've ever talked about this.
I never had like any sort of not the binder thing. Yeah, because I didn't travel that honestly because I was scared to travel.
Yeah, God, I can imagine.
I didn't travel that much when I did travel. My priority was being like comfortable, and so I didn't wear my binder. Not everybody does that, and that's fine. So there was one binder I could wear, and that wasn't a big deal, but I didn't get stopped for it. There was some times where I would get stopped, but it wasn't for what I was wearing. It was for my IDs. Yeah. And so, but once I changed the photo on my passport, it kind of solved everything. Like I said in the video, it's like once you change your photo, they don't really bother anymore. I think like 90% of the security are just making sure that the photo matches, which is like kind of half the battle for them. And then like sometimes if you're going through like a border control, then they'll be like something's off, especially in like especially in Germany. They're just like really looking at everything, they're looking at all the details.
How can we nail you on this?
Yeah, exactly. What rule are you not following?
Yeah, right. You wore brown with blue in your picture. You can't come in the country.
You said your eye color's brown, but it's actually hazel.
Never come back.
We were joking. They're joking. The security's actually really chill here.
They're good.
Yeah. Were there any like tips or any ideas that you thought of that I didn't include in the video, or anything like that? Well, you've never gone to an airport with me or another transport.
No, I have not actually. No, I'm like trying to think because you and I, we've never traveled together. I guess if you are, like as an ally, I would say like if you are going to travel with a trans person or somebody who's, needs a little bit of extra love and care, like make sure that you're like on their schedule. Don't be late.
Yeah.
I have a tendency. No, I fly so
No,
much.
you're totally
I'm pretty
fine.
good. Like I fly so much now. Like I really hate it, but like I really try to be on time. I would say just try to be understanding and like buy them a coffee. That could be nice, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Something
What are
really
things
simple.
that like if we were gonna travel together, like what could I do to like make your journey a bit better?
Well,
Don't talk about Justin Trudeau the whole time. Or maybe yeah. Or maybe yeah.
Or maybe yeah.
Or maybe yeah. You could put a cap on it after half an hour.
Well, I mean, you don't. I don't know. I mean, you don't have to like do
Like,
so much. Yeah. But like,
what is something that like you would need? Like understanding, space.
honestly, I guess the main thing would just be to understand that like I probably would be on a short fuse.
Yeah. Okay, this is good to know.
And that like a cisgender person would already be sort of agitated because they're in an airport, but like I might be slightly more agitated.
Yeah, for sure.
And especially more than normal because I'm generally like totally fine. I'm relatively chill.
Yeah.
And theoretically in an airport I'd kind of just be like, okay, doing the thing, but it's really agitating for me because of the trans stuff. And so just like understanding that and kind of giving me a little bit of extra room to be angry or agitated.
Right.
And not being like, why are you being so grumpy? I was just like, I'm being grumpy because I legitimately like am scared.
Could you imagine? What are you so upset about?
What are you so upset about? My life. My life. I'm upset about my life.
What is like the worst part for like where would you need the most kind of like space or closeness like when you're going through the airport? Like what is the worst part?
Honestly, like waiting in the line to go through the screening stuff.
This is like horrible.
It's even as like a cisgender person. It's like,
I'm
oh my god, why am I in this line?
Yeah.
But like waiting in that line, I first of all get really hot because I'm getting really nervous, and so then I'm just like, I just want to tear my clothes off, and then I just start like kicking my bag and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, and I just hate when people talk to me. So like. It would be great, like, and this is just me personally.
I know you so
other
well.
trans
Like,
people are
I'm
different.
asking for other people because if I had to travel with you, I know exactly like how to handle this. Airports
Gally
are
says
the worst.
Airports are the worst.
True.
They're so the worst.
Wow, they're just the worst ever.
They're so bad for everybody.
I'm like, why did this? Everyone uses these all the time. Why are they so
So
bad?
bad.
Like, fix it.
Fix it.
Sorry. Please continue.
No, yeah, when I'm standing in line, this is the worst part for me, is standing in line, I get really irritable, and I don't want to talk to anybody,
Yeah.
and even if I'm with somebody that I really, really like, even, like, when Emma and I are standing in the airport, and, like, most of the time we're, like, just, like, kidding around, blah, 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 whatever, and then she'll be being totally normal, and then I'll suddenly be like, kicking my bag and just, like, tearing my clothes off.
It's like, yep.
That's when it gets, like,
Sounds about right.
insane.
Yeah. It's allowed though.
Yeah, and then once I get on the other side, then I kind of feel like I can breathe again, but then I'm kind of just like... And then I was like, just feel...
I feel like airports and IKEA are a zone where, like, anything you say doesn't count, you know? Like, to your partner. You're like, everything you say can be taken back in an air. Like, as soon as you leave the airport, then it's like, you gotta keep your shit together. You know what I mean? It's like, everyone is just, like, it's purgatory.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Purgatory to me would be like going to Schiffeld Airport in Berlin.
Schiffeld Airport.
all the security's for a show. It's so awful. I was laughing at one of the signs in line was talking about their innovative electromagnetic technology.
A microwave.
I was like, what? What, a microwave?
Yeah, really though.
But seriously.
Yeah. I'm like, what
Yeah,
is this about?
I agree. It does kind of feel like it's for show. It kind of feels like it is designed to make us sweat.
Yeah.
Like literally and figuratively
Yeah.
sweat.
Yeah. What else?
I don't know. Now I'm just like sweating.
I'm sweating. It's so hot.
It's so
here.
hot.
I know we look really good, guys, but
We do
in
look-
reality, like my back is wet right now, and like not in a cool way.
Not in a cool way.
Want my number?
I don't have anything else to add in the airport stuff. If you don't, then we have a couple more minutes and we can go to. You're glowing. I know. Yeah.
I'm not even pregnant.
Wait, is this
I thought you were
the
turning away
opposite?
from me to be like, ew,
No.
shut up.
Is this the way to turn it?
If you
I
want
feel
to
like
like
that-
their stuff.
Old man. I think that's slightly better. Okay, here we go. We can do some other Q&A before
Yeah,
we
let's
close
do it.
up because we have about 15 minutes.
Cool.
15. No, I'm still glowing. 15 minutes
It's good that you're glowing.
before we. There we go. Wait, can you move over a little bit? And
Yes. No. Of course.
I consider my wet spot.
I'm unprofessional.
No, Emma was trying to make out with me earlier. So.
It's not too late.
Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah. So we have some Q&A that we can do before we close off. We have about 15 minutes, and then we're going to take a 2-hour break.
Cool.
And then we'll come back in about 2 hours, and we'll do some arts and crafts and do some more discussion and Q&A. So probably mostly making cookies
Oh, yeah.
because we bought some.
I saw this.
You saw it. We bought some really exciting decorating stuff for cookies.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
And we might. So by arts and crafts, I might about that.
I'm trying.
No, my gosh, she hates arts and crafts.
No, I don't hate it. My mom is an art teacher. Like, I feel like I must like it. I think I.
Oh my god, but you don't.
I will. It depends on what it is. If it's like we have to build birdhouses, like I might suddenly.
No, I don't want to build a birdhouse. We're going to be coloring, baking
That's fine.
cookies.
That's okay.
I got-
Oh, baking cookies counts as arts and crafts. I'm down. Like now it's happening.
Everyone likes cookies. Exactly. And I bought mermaid decorations
Now I'm excited.
from Real and unicorn decorations.
Okay, I'm down. I'm down. I can get into this.
Yeah. I also bought a temporary hair dye. So I don't know if that's included in arts and crafts, but you'll hear about it, Internet. Okay, so Q&A.
Wow.
Wow. So.
That's so bad.
Oh my god, there's so many. So there's a bunch of singing questions. There's a bunch of other like trans questions that you shouldn't ask, and then a couple of fun questions which I answered some of them. But
I should have brought my note cards from that one time that we wrote down questions that like people ask me about you.
oh yeah,
We
yeah,
should do
that
that
was good.
next
Oh,
time.
we didn't. Yeah,
We'll do
we'll
that.
have a whole video about that actually.
I'm like volunteering this. I'm like on your page. Next time we're gonna do this.
Oh, I did this one as well. Do you see any? They're quite far away, aren't they?
That's fine.
Do you see any that you'd like to
I
ask?
have to squint.
Looks like we were like looking into people's souls. We're actually looking at a Word document.
We're working at a Word document. Yeah.
How did? Can I? Okay, sorry. How does? Can I ask that?
Yeah,
one?
yeah, sure.
Okay.
Which one?
How the one that? How
This
does?
one?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Is it okay?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
How does the opera industry deal with your experience? Follow up. Do agents, conductors, directors seem open to experiment? Follow up. Would you want to do one at a time?
No, it's fine.
Okay. Are they protective of their traditional Fox system? Is there an alternative to the mainstream happening? Are stages in Germany and Europe ready for new vocal narratives more than other places?
That's a good question.
It's a really good question.
Very good question. I don't have enough experience to know everything about this. Also, because my voice and my appearance is relatively normative. Like it is like, although I identify as non-binary and I am a trans person, most people don't have a problem with my voice or my gender. I'm not threatening. I'm not immediately threatening to them in any way. And so most people
don't really question it. They're sort of just like, well, can you sing it?
Yeah.
Like that's about as far as they get. They're like, can you sing this? Can you sing it well? Do we want to hire you, or whatever? And then it's a yes or a no, just like with anybody else.
It's usually a yes. Can we tell like a side note? Because I remember when Holden first was when you were like beginning to transition, and I was like, I'm so supportive, but like, what happens to your voice now?
Yeah.
And you were really nervous that you were not going to get work.
Yeah.
He worked more than all of us. Like literally, like all of our friend group put together, like he has more work than we do.
Yeah, besides
and we're happy about it. we are.
No, I know you are.
Like, I didn't mean to be like, and yeah, fuck you. No, it's so nice to have like seen at the beginning you be like, oh my god,
I was so scared.
Oh my god.
No, it's fine. We're not on the radio.
Okay, can we be?
Yeah.
No, but it's really nice to know that like it seems like people have embraced.
Yeah.
It's also because you're amazing. It has nothing to do with it being this sort of like whoa thing. You know?
Yeah, I know. I just like
you're incredibly talented.
it's just like I studied really hard. I work really hard. I have other skills, and my voice
Best actor
is
ever.
now. My voice is getting better and better, and so now I can sing more standard repertoire.
Sorry, there's just a side note because I always think about how funny that is.
Yeah, no, because I really was scared at first. So I don't feel that people are very threatened. I think that sometimes people are interested, like really actively like interested and supportive, and then most of the time people are kind of like oh, I don't care. In Germany, people don't really care that much.
Egal.
Yeah, they're totally egal. Which is fine, to be honest. Like, I don't mind if people don't care, because that means that they feel generally neutrally about it. Like, they don't
like,
look at me as
normal.
Yeah,
it should be normal.
Exactly. Yeah, they, like usually they'll see something on my resume, or like if they look at my website, they're kind of like, oh, okay, this person's trans. But most of the time they don't care, which is cool. It's much more interesting to the English-speaking world, I think. To like in the UK and in America, people are much more like actively and emotionally involved with it. And I think that if I was in America, then people would have more problems with it. Potentially could have more problems with it. And as far as like the traditional Fox system, I fit into it sort of. I mean, my voice would be very happy doing other contemporary and like new music stuff. I think I would really like to do that actually. And I was talking to Shlomi about it a little bit, and talking about with Syria as well, because they do music stuff.
Cool.
And so, and they find it really satisfying because they get to like play and do a lot more acting as well, and it's just and on contemporary topics. For example, I went to go see the AIDS Follies that Shlomi was in.
Oh no, I didn't. I wasn't here.
It was really good, and it was really refreshing to see. And I think it was labeled as an opera. It was an opera that was about a relevant topic, and a queer topic. How odd.
I just had this conversation with somebody last week.
Oh, really?
About how they wish that they would write more, not just for opera, yes, especially because we're opera singers, but for entertainment, write narratives about gay couples and gay people where it's not an anomaly and it's not based on drama.
Yeah.
But it's just like, hey, we're, normal, like going to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like straight people do.
Like straight people.
Where it's like
groceries too.
it doesn't have to be like some like this person like turned gay and left their family. It's like, okay, these people are gay and like they live a normal life.
And they need to get some chocolate chips for their
Right.
kids.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's nice to hear that this is already starting to happen.
Yeah. So that I find that refreshing, and so I think that it is changing. And in Germany, there's a lot more. Not a lot more, but in Germany there's more funding and space for it in some ways, because there's just a lot more opera happening here. But in America, there's also a lot happening. Like I have some friends in New York who are writing like mini and micro operas and stuff about, like, for example, I don't know if you saw this. There's this like micro opera about Elvira and Donana in like a relationship. And it's like amazing.
What?
I know. I really would have loved to see it.
We'll be back. No.
Yeah.
I have to see this.
Yeah, and so stuff like that's happening now. It's happening like new music, and so I think that there is a lot more space. But I think that the opera world needs to sort of listen to new composers and pay attention to new music more than it does, because
it really does.
There's a lot of composers.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good composers that are writing interesting things and relevant things.
Learn things new, and it's like there are.
You need to give them a chance. You need to give them money to sustain themselves.
Yeah.
You know. Like, you need to invest in it.
Exactly.
It's just, yeah, it's unfortunate. In America, it's a lot harder. There's a lot. It's not as easy to get access to that kind of money.
Funding.
Funding for the arts.
Funding for the arts. Yeah. So we're closing up. It's about 6 minutes. Will be 5 minutes away. And so, yeah. Let me just turn off this timer. So, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Please subscribe to my channel. Please like the video. Please go to the Patreon when it's up. I've unfortunately had some technical difficulties with it, so it's not up yet. But I'm also on Instagram, and I have a Facebook site as well as my personal Facebook page. So please always ask me questions. I'm going to add them to the list because I have a big list of questions, and I'm just going to keep adding questions to it until I die. And they don't have to be about gender, they don't have to be about sexuality, they can be what's your favorite video game, or
What cookies are we making tonight?
what cookies are we making tonight. I don't know.
I'm excited.
I don't know. So I don't have answers for everything. This is like the one question I don't have an answer to.
The only one. I don't even know.
I know everything else.
I walked you into a trap.
It's because it's Leo season.
Yeah.
Anyway, but thank you so much for joining us. We're going to take a 2-hour break, and then we'll be back. So, yeah, thank you so much, especially you, Lava Slug / Callie. So, see you later. Mwah.
Jazz hands.
Jesse.